It looks like you're live. Hello? Hello? All right, technical difficulties. Bear with us. Hello? Well, if you guys can hear me, I think we're live at the moment. So welcome back to the Midnight Hour. As with me always is Burning Down Babylon. Tonight's show we are hosting on Burning Down Babylon's channel. How's everybody doing tonight in the chats? Let's take a look.
Am I coming through now?
Yes, you are. Check your mic.
I'm plugged. Is it too loud?
Turn the volume down a little bit.
Trying something new here.
Sounds good. Kind of sound like a robot at the moment. Tonight's guest is a Decepticon.
All right, sorry everybody.
All right, we got people in. Hi, my TV. Hey, Dr. Zavaga. Burning Down Babylon posted the link if you guys want to jump in. It looks like we got some topics for tonight. Got some new people here as well.
All right.
Mr. Bigglesworth. Mini-me, is that you?
Hello, Mr. Bigglesworth.
Actually, that was perfect.
Is that good?
All right, you want to start us off?
Welcome to the Midnight Hour. I am your host, Bernie.
You're cutting out, my friend. Using a new mic. So as you can see, we're getting attacked by the Zionist shills out there. No, I'm just kidding. We're just suffering some technical difficulties. And if you'd like to join in, Burning Down Babylon posted the link right above. So while he's setting up, he has some topics for tonight. Look awesome. Looks like we're going over the Bernie Sanders and his wife at the FBI investigation for fraud. That was an interesting thing, you know, especially how Bernie Sanders, the known Zionist communist, everything should be free, but give me your money. Yeah, the FBI is actually investigating him, you know, after Hillary made him throw the election, got himself some sweet dividends. You know, I was wondering why he got that increase in his pay gap.
How about now?
Much better.
Strange.
Don't mind me, I'm just popping in this nicotine gum. Just gave up dip. So yeah, let me not steal your thunder. Go ahead with the Bernie Sanders story. This should be fun.
All right, give me a sec. Let's do a little thing here. I came across this story the other day.
Uh-huh.
Bernie Sanders and his wife are being investigated by the FBI for bank fraud.
Yep.
Get my my screen share going here. Well, what happened was his wife was president of called Berlin Burlington University, small like community college in Burlington or Vermont.
Where the rich folks are
From
from.
Vermont.
You're right, though. It is Vermont. That's where Ben and Jerry's is
Vermont.
from.
I thought it was Vermont. Bernie Sanders' wife becomes president of this college. Bernie Sanders to, I wouldn't say pressure, but coax, giving her a $10 million loan. For something like a $10 million loan, you have to have, collateral and prove to these people that you can pay them their money back. And what she did is about the, 1 second. What she did is she lied about the number of students that went to the college, and she lied about the amount of money donated by alumni and stuff like that and donors. And when she got the loan, those lies, came to bite her in the ass because she paid the loan back. What she did was to pay back the loan.
Right.
You hear me?
Yep. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, she lied on the bank papers. And Bernie Sanders is involved because he met with the people who own the bank. I don't know how the owner, it didn't say to what degree, but I'm sure he, owner of the bank's palms to this loan. Ironically, they bought the land off the archdiocese of whatever area they're in from the Catholic Church. So, she had this dream of expanding this college, and she had a money bomb, or I don't know what you'd want to call it, but she took a bunch of donations, and when she reported the amount of donations she took in, the amount she got was higher than the amount she filed and said she got. So there's a matter of the missing donation money. Not to mention, she didn't pay back the loan. I mean, she only had like 20 money to pay the loan back. And then to top it all off, she resigns. Well, when she resigned, she collected a $200,000 severance package, and she was given some honorary title. I don't remember the name of it. It wasn't important. But after she leaves, she basically leaves this college in financial ruin. The college was running for about 40 years, over bankruptcy, and went out of business. And, this story was from over a year and a half ago. And I just thought it was peculiar that there was no mention of it. Yeah, it's just surfacing now, that the FBI is just looking into it now. But they didn't want to bring it up during the election. Oh, Sanders is a independent.
Right.
He was running with the Democratic Party. So, he's soliciting donations as a Democrat. So the DNC is collecting money. And, Bernie Sanders during the election. I mean, the burn thing, I know many people that were going to vote for Bernie Sanders.
It's very ironic. The funny thing is, this is the guy who went after Goldman Sachs, and he was like, who did you give the money to? And it, at the same time, okay, Bernie, who did you take the money from? It's very ironic that the communist is in trouble.
Yeah, I remember he's always saying about people paying their fair share, while in the background, I got to look more into his wife. I didn't realize she was as involved in his career. And Oh yeah, big time. I mean,
They
this was
both
a
are.
small, a few hundred students per year went to this college. It wasn't like a major university. Oh, I guess if I was the owner of the bank, I would have looked into it,
Right.
The paper, she tells them that they have, so many more students going there and so many more people pledging money. One story I read was about a woman who was going to pledge $1 million when she died. But, Jane Sanders, that's his wife's name, she basically said that this woman's going to now.
Right. By
So,
the way, he wouldn't be something that
go
rhymes
ahead.
with shoeish, would he?
Yeah, he actually is.
Is he a
He's a
practicing
shoe.
shoe?
Yeah, and we hate fucking shoes. Go around barefoot.
Yep. You guys ever notice how Bernie Sanders sounds like Principal Vickers from Beavis and Butthead?
Beavis and Butthead, I want you in my office now.
Hillary Clinton, she's corrupt.
Yeah, it's McVickers mixed with a Jew from Brooklyn.
Honestly, I hate to stereotype, but he is Mr. Vickers. Pay your fair share. Don't look at my mansions.
So, what do you think? You think the FBI is going to prosecute these two?
No.
Absolutely not. I don't believe so either.
I was about to say,
I mean,
isn't Clinton one to be processed and still hasn't happened yet?
well, I mean, did you ever listen to the I won't call it a trial, I guess, when she went in front of Congress or whatever?
Yeah, I can't answer that. It's just like the same with Comey. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. What difference does it make?
I know.
Uh,
Well, what difference does it make now? Well, it makes a big difference because you were just caught weapons to we call terrorists.
right.
You're funding them, and then and they say they're going to attack the embassy in Benghazi in Libya, and then they do, and they didn't even give the people in the embassy a heads up,
Well,
and Americans.
they're not gonna try a new world order witch like Hillary Clinton. I know that she's a member of the Eastern Star, and I know that she's very high up there in a lot of the satanic cabal rituals, and she's like a high priestess, if I remember correctly. But I know she's definitely linked to Order of the Eastern Star, just like all of them. And they're not going to touch her, because if they did bring her to a real trial, we should burn her at the stake like the witch that she really is.
And it's like any other politician because Hillary could drop the dime on a lot of other people. I could do a 3-hour show just about her. I've done a lot of research into the Clintons, and I mean, they've been involved in so many scams. And I know, there's maybe, Bernie Sanders' wife embezzled a few $100,000, which, in the big scope of things isn't much when you have someone exactly like Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
They've stolen billions of dollars from these different groups, the Clinton Trust. There's so
oh yeah.
many of them. I mean, there's the Clinton Health Initiative when they're, allegedly building hospitals in Haiti and stuff like that. But
I
I
was just
mean,
going to mention that. Yeah.
show that, these politicians are, while their friends and family members are out different scams. Now, I don't know for whatever reason that the FBI to look into this. Bernie Sanders, of course, is complaining because in Vermont that is handling this case was Donald Trump's campaign manager for the state of Vermont. what Bernie Sanders didn't mention is this investigation started back with in his Justice Department, and I believe her name was Loretta Lynch. She was the
Right.
general, I believe, at the time.
Yes, she was.
So I mean, he's just using the it's just Donald Trump and his people going after a Democrat, which he's not a Democrat, pretty
No,
much
he's
a communist.
yeah, he's a commie.
But he'll say he's a social democrat, which there's no difference. He wants to take your money and give it to him and his friends. Communism
Exactly.
is he's a party member and you're not. And that's all communism does is they take from everybody else to people at the top.
Yep, just redistributing the wealth to themselves. But the funny thing is, going back to your question, if what do you think of Bernie Sanders is going to get he could be a fall guy. They'll probably make a deal or something like that. I mean, because he's not really in the upper echelons. Despite his popularity, he's not part of their club.
I mean, inside of clubs, sort of thing, secret societies within societies. So I'm sure he's part of something. I don't think he's, like you said, in the upper these different
Yep, yeah.
groups.
He's not part of the upper echelons, that's for sure.
Something like, they use this investigation as a smokescreen for other things that are going on because, there was a lot of Bernie supporters out there. A lot of them were, Clinton supporters as well. They could use it just as a diversion to, things, for instance, like, we found that article a few shows ago, troops in Syria, when, Trump said there's not going to be any troops on the ground in Syria. And then lo and behold, Time in the middle of an article on a New York Times page, and, no one in the media is talking about it, but there's, U.S. troops on the ground in Syria.
Yep. Not to mention things like Illinois going bankrupt. Did you hear about that?
No, we could. I heard you bring that up. You posted it in the comments.
It's a real quick thing. Illinois is basically going bankrupt. The entire state is going bankrupt, and they might actually have to dissolve it into the other states. So this is the first time I've ever heard of them dissolving a state. That's never been heard of before. And, that kind of ties into like creating the mega territories for Agenda 21. Dissolve the states into a bigger unit because, the states around it are going to get bigger. So eventually you're just going to have these geopolitical areas, these mega cities.
It makes me wonder, why don't they just, where's their bailout? They just print money up. It ain't like they have to have any kind of real wealth or value. Why don't they just print the money up and increase the inflation?
Well, that's because it doesn't fall part of their plan. I mean, this is perfect. Nobody's the wiser.
I wish we could show.
What was that?
I was just going to say, I wish we could watch that movie, The Big Short, because it explains so much of the, financial system. Basically, it's just gambling. And I mean, they're gambling about gambling, if that makes sense. Like, they bet, someone will make a bet, and then other people will bet on which person who made the bet is going to win. Make a bet on which person's going to win the bet, who made the, who's betting on the other person. And it's like a chain that goes on forever when someone, when that original bet finally goes down and one person wins or loses, millions of different bets that have to be called in, and the money doesn't even exist. I mean, average
Yeah.
$5 million out, thousands and thousands of times. They'll turn $5 million into 50 billion, and the money doesn't exist to pay these people back.
For everybody watching right now,
Chicago,
I was just gonna say, for everybody watching right now, that's your homework assignment. Watch The Big Short.
and they really break it down and explain things to you,
Who's in that movie?
derivatives and fault swaps, and how the housing market was used for so long as basically a way for Wall Street to gamble away your money.
Who's in that movie?
Um, Christian Bale, he plays one of the main characters. And a lot of the characters, like the actual people from real life, Jewish. Steve Carell from The Office.
Yep.
Brad Pitt is in it. They're probably the three big ones. I guess let's
So
check out a noise article. You could
yeah, go for it.
there.
You should see like yeah, they're going to be one of the first states to file bankruptcy. That's never happened, and I mean Puerto Rico is not that far behind.
Well, I noticed there's been talk of Puerto Rico becoming a state,
That wouldn't
and
go well.
they're basically bankrupt, and it would be pretty much a bailout.
Well, if they're going to dissolve Illinois, I don't know what the hell they're going to do with Puerto Rico. Just making it a state is just going to make it worse.
I mean, I don't know. I don't let Illinois go bankrupt. I'm sure they would bail them out. I mean,
Well, I mean, there's a lot of
we
other
could
people that could
allow
go
that
bankrupt,
to
such as like
Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania ain't so financially sound. And I mean, at one time, a lot of products were made in Pennsylvania. Like, you know, Heinz is a big one.
right?
Bethlehem Steel, in eastern Pennsylvania. You had all the steel mills in Pittsburgh. I mean, coal is another big commodity from Pennsylvania.
I mean, that's where the name the Steelers come from, guys.
Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Not because they steal things.
Pennsylvania. Especially in like the area in eastern PA where I live, you can really see how the whole like North American Union kind of thing with what the hell was the name of that agreement they had? The NAFTA agreement. After NAFTA, I mean, that were left around here pretty much vanished. The steel mill in Bethlehem, which is basically by Allentown, it's all kind of one city. Just a big empty building now, and I believe they're turning it into a casino. Pennsylvania got their hands on illegal gambling. They were off to the races with it.
That's one way to make your money back. That is definitely one way to make your money back.
The state and U.S. island Commonwealth are hemorrhaging citizens, with thousands leaving. Well, there's no jobs around here. And I mean, Chicago right now is the highest murder rate in the country now.
Murder capital.
You know, they call it Chirac. I mean, I know someone who's lived in Chicago, and they told me it's horrible there. Not talking about, you know, the suburbs. We're talking about the inner city where it's, you know, a majority of non-white people, and it's basically, you know, gang wars and going on, and a lot of that has moved into my area. When you see these, you know, major cities that are in trouble, like for instance Philadelphia,
Right.
white people move out. They call it white flight. The white people move out, all these different groups move in, and you know, that's the end of the show. The businesses leave. The people who pay their taxes and who are pretty much law-abiding citizens leave,
Right.
and these different groups move in. They run down the town, crime goes up, jobs leave, and you're left with whatever's left behind.
Yep. And you know, the weird part is, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say, you know, I've studied a lot about inner workings of gangs, and you know, each one of these gangs actually has a hierarchy. And the funny thing is, if you really look into these gang structures and what they do and their initiation rites, it's all part of the Babylonian system. They themselves are part of the Luciferian cabal. Because you find out that a lot
Something
of the
that's.
high. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I was just saying, if you look into it, and this goes for fraternities and sororities too, the people at the top of these gangs, the people at the top of the fraternities, the people at the top of the sororities are all part of the secret societies. And the higher ones, you know, it's a filtration system. Because the ones that get high up, you better believe there are some Masons, there are some Skull and Bones. It's a filtration system. So they will take you in college, they will take you on the street, they will filter you out until they have leadership material.
And you know, they say about let's get these gangs off the street and all that. I could tell you from personal experience, I have some involvement with people who were in gangs. The
Mm-hmm.
gangs are being run from prison. Just because, you know, you put these gang members in prison doesn't mean they stop running. I mean, they actually use prisons as a recruitment center.
Oh
And, you know,
yeah.
some people go to jail deliberately to take hits out on different gang members. I mean, when you're in a major prison, it's separated racially. You know, the black people all stay with each other, the Hispanic groups, whites stay with each other. There's not some kind of, you know,
Right.
inclusive living going on, you know,
Oh
and
no.
the, the show doesn't stop. And, you know, people think, you know, like there's not drugs in jail. There's probably more drugs in jail than out of jail.
How many do you think are
And
CIA puppets?
top,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've had this, heroin has been a big on the East Coast. And
Yep.
see a lot of this hashtag shoot your local heroin dealer. And I explain to these people, you can't just, you know, grow what you can't grow opium poppies. You can grow opium poppies, so I shouldn't say that, but what it takes to make heroin, you can't just set up in your backyard
No.
and just do this in your garage. So
Well,
it's being
that's where the
shipped in.
war on terror comes from. That's where
Well,
the
yeah,
war on
I
terror.
mean,
Yeah.
one of the
Go.
reasons we're in Afghanistan because they have a, you know, a spectacular climate for growing these opium poppies. The
Sh- Show them like
amount
the.
of heroin coming out of,
I'm sorry.
oh,
I was
the
going to say.
graph.
Yeah. Show them the graph of pop opium production since the war on terror and like before. This is really good, guys. Check this out. So if you really want to
Well, how about
know
we
one of the
just,
reasons we're really over there, It's basically the opium production. I'm sorry, what was that?
I was just gonna say, you want to finish? Would you want to finish up with this Illinois article?
Oh, go for it.
I just basically glanced over it while we were talking. It says Illinois is one of the 8 states with a diminishing population. It's lost nearly 40,000 people. West Virginia, largest with 10,000 people, due to the coal power plants being shut down by Obama, which is insane. I mean, I live in the heart of coal country. We, produce a lot of electricity around here. More than 50% of all the electricity in the United States comes from burning coal. So, when countries don't have electricity, into the Stone Age. It says here that Illinois has $140 billion liabilities. And these are for government employee pensions.
Right.
Well, a lot of people's retirement pretty much just
Vanished.
and this is one of the states that's pushing that $15 an hour minimum wage,
Because that'll
which
make
I
jobs
think
better.
is
Exactly right.
ridiculous. I think, a $15 hour minimum wage is a good thing. Does not understand economics.
Because your ass is
These are
getting
going to do
replaced by a machine.
exactly. Already, like you go to Walmart or certain self checkout aisles now. You ever see those?
Yeah, I've seen them. How many people did they have to cut back to put that machine in there?
Well, and you know what the worst thing is when you use those things, 8 of them, you have one guy watching it. Easy to steal. You ring up your own stuff. All you gotta do is throw your shit in the bag and walk out. You couldn't steal everything. You have to be losing money from theft. Plus, the machines are always messing up, so you have to have someone come over. I'm in stores and they have those. I do not use them. Even if I have to wait, I would rather give my time. Someone has a job, you know. I don't use those self checkout. Just don't believe in them.
Right. Not to mention the fact that you should be paying me for checking myself out. Yeah, contract terminated said $15 an hour to fuck up my order, huh? Essentially, that's it. That's why they're going to replace most of those people with a machine. You see the commercial for McDonald's that basically goes, "Oh, how do you purchase the food? Oh, you just press the button on the machine." You've seen that one? You've seen that. You've seen that one, right, Lloyd? Uh-oh. Sounds like one of the kids is up.
We got a show. This is my son.
Hey, buddy. What's up?
Great. I'm waiting for this pop up here for the heroin thing.
Yeah.
Real funny.
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
You're gonna notice a trend. To view the page, so we could there
it is. But yeah, going back to what he was saying too, you're going to start noticing this trend of states starting to lose money, states going bankrupt, because you've seen it all over, people losing jobs no matter what the newspaper says. You know, people are continuing to lose jobs in places like coal and things like that. And the more people lose jobs, the more the state's going to go into bankruptcy, and you're going to see these other states buy these states out. And eventually that's going to become an Agenda 20, you know, it's part of the Agenda 21 plan.
You know, you already don't know the whole, you know, Babylonian system is part of it is the selling, distributing, and penalizing people for doing drugs. So, you know, if you look at this chart starting at the left, 1994, 2000, you have a, you know, pretty steady increase in production in hectares of land there. So, I mean, you could see the increase. But you'll notice a trend in 2001 that the heroin production nearly disappears.
Right.
And then in 2001, the United States and its allies goes to war. Then the whole war on terror begins. And you know, it's right back for the next 2 years, business as usual. An explosion from 2004 to about 2008. And then it dips down, but it still has, you know, almost tripled compared to what it was in the 90s. And now it's just, you know, it's doubled again. You can see, you know, some of these 200,000 hectares of land. But does any, you know, can anyone guess why in 2001 production dropped off down to almost nothing? Well, that's because the Taliban took control of Afghanistan and they stopped production. And, you know, they figured if they got rid of the opium production, get rid of the United States. And, you know, if you don't already know, the war on terror is a bunch of bullshit. There's billions upon billions of dollars being made just from the heroin, not to mention all the opium derivatives, like the synthetics, like, you know, Percocet and Oxycontin.
Pharmaceuticals.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure just about everyone in here knows, uses pharmaceutical opioids, or,
Yep.
you know, they're into heroin by now. I mean, it's crazy out of control. Personally, used to do opioids and I got into heroin. Luckily, I was able to get out of that lifestyle and turn my life around. But,
You're
and, you
familiar.
know, on top of that,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, you're familiar with Brave New World, right?
Yeah.
You see, with all this heroin production and with all this opioid production, you know, it's like they're trying to manufacture, you know, soma. Soma was the chemical that they used in the book. So especially with the way the world is so chaotic and people nowadays have so much neurosis just from hearing the news every day, you need something to sedate the people.
And if you didn't read the book, soma was a drug people took to feel happy. And what opioids do is, you know, when you win the lottery or it's your birthday or you see your kid take his first steps or something, you get that happy feeling, reaction in your body, and release different chemicals to make you feel happy.
Yep.
That releases all those happy, good chemicals all at once. So you're feeling spectacular. Now, the only thing is when you artificially induce opium or different opioid derivatives into your body, your glands that once made those chemicals stop producing them. Opium, your body still needs those chemicals, and because it doesn't produce them anymore, you run out of them. You literally cannot physically be happy. Physiologically, you do not have the chemicals in your body to feel happy, and you get sick. Basically, like alcohol withdrawal. Withdrawal from
Right.
opiates is one of the most horrible things you can go through. To never get involved in these things. Yeah, they may feel good at first, but I will guarantee you from personal experience, you will get hooked and you will lose everything. Your car, your house, your family. And I mean, look at the trend on this graph from, 94. And this only goes to 2016. 54, 57, 58 hectares of land being used to 209, 224,000 hectares of land. I mean, this is insane. And we go into Afghanistan, we overthrow the Taliban. We install Karzai as the leader there, and his brother is one of the most well-known in the world.
Right.
So you can't tell me that the war on terror was just some bullshit story they made up for the United States and its, allies to go into Afghanistan and get the heroin production. I mean, it goes from tens of thousands to 8,000, 82,000 hectares to 8,000 in 1 year. If the Taliban would have stayed in control, it would have been wiped out within the next few years.
Easily.
A farmer can make more money growing poppies and selling heroin than food. And the Taliban was actually giving them incentives to grow food. Interesting little
quick
graph
thing,
to look at. Go ahead.
Quick thing, Trayson brought up, you're starting to sound like a Decepticon a little bit. Your mic is kind of breaking up.
How about now?
A little bit. And there's probably some reverb. You got a pair of headphones?
Yeah, let me try, because I unplugged this wire. You could, seconds here while I set this up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. But going on, he's exactly right. With heroin production being at an all-time high, that's essentially what they're going to use to sedate the population. It's a spiritual war against sobriety, you guys. I'm buzzed on beer and cannabis, so my bad. Yeah, it is a spiritual war. I would definitely agree with you, Trayson. But the biggest issue, a sober mind is a dangerous mind to these people. And when you're able to think clearly, you're a threat. That's why they want the population under control. And, they start with the easy drugs. They go on to the hard. With all the, I'm a big fan of cannabis. There are wonderful things that cannabis can do for you. However, the way that they're pushing it is they want you to buy government-grown cannabis. And as you know, I wouldn't trust the government for my water, let alone my cannabis. Because if they're putting fluoride in your fucking water to make you fucking retarded, how much more do you think they're going to put in your cannabis? How much more do you think the government's going to instill in weed? They're gonna fucking lace that shit. We can't even get a tomato that's non-GMO. What do you think they're gonna fucking put weed? The one thing that everybody wants. Everybody wants to smoke weed. Do you think, oh, we're just gonna make it natural? No, they're gonna stuff a shit ton in it. You can't even get a potato non-GMO. But yeah, it's okay. The government's not going to put anything in your weed, guys. Don't worry about that. You know, it's a funny thing about gyms, my TV. You know, the funny thing about gyms is we're trying to basically replicate chores that we used to do. And it definitely seems like, oh yeah, pay this money and we're going to, replicate the chores that people used to do on farms and stuff, only with equipment. And you're going to pay money to do it. Where in the old days, you get paid for doing that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's move on. Let's see here. You back with me, Burning Down? Technical difficulties. Let's see. So what's new with you guys in the chat? Yeah, we are chronically exerted physically for sure. Oh yeah, that's a good point, Trayson. Keep us weak, keep us dependent, keep us from not going outdoors. Because that's the biggest thing. Eventually, they just want you to stay at home. Agenda 21 is right on track, Everybody loses job to robots. And when that happens, you're going to need that universal income. I mean, nobody ever goes outdoors and meets strangers, although I wouldn't recommend meeting strangers nowadays. They might find out where you live and put a finger in you. But let's see. But going on to that, I'm sorry, I'm on a tangent. Where was I? Oh yeah, they want you to stay at home. They want you to order online because all the brick and mortar stores are dying. Walmart, for fuck's sake, is in trouble. Walmart can't compete with Amazon. And Amazon's buying out Whole Foods, so there go your non-GMO groceries. Gone. What happened with taking self-responsibility? Well, that's the thing. When you can't be responsible for yourself, the state has to step in. That's what they want. They want everybody to be dependent on a state. And when you're dependent on the state, you can't even wipe your ass without the state telling you how to do it. Don't bend the ply this way, you'll get hemorrhoids. Use our special substance. They don't want you to think for yourself. Eventually, they want you to have an app that ties your shoelaces because, we're too retarded to figure it out. It's all about control. Absolutely right, Dr. Zavago. I mean, what's the best thing for these people? They don't want you to think. As George Carlin says, they want you dumb enough not to ask questions, but smart enough to be able to run the machines. But one of the biggest issues we're going to come across is we are definitely going to come across a time where it's either get off the grid, and even if you try to get off the grid, states are stepping in, like my state of Florida. They actually kicked this guy out of his home for getting off the grid. They made up some bullshit commercial code that he wasn't following. And commercial code is corporate code. Has nothing to do with common law. And that's how they get you. If you don't follow the corporate code, they can essentially take all your stuff that's signed over in the corporate code. I mean, you register your car. Why should you have to register your car? It's your car. But you have to register it under a state system. Black sun living off the grid is quote unquote illegal. Well, you bet your ass it's illegal. So is 90% of the stuff that I want, so is 90% of the stuff I do. But as my favorite author says, Robert A. Heinlein, I am morally responsible for everything I do. If there's a law that I find intolerant, I break it. If there's a law I can tolerate, I follow it, but I alone am morally responsible for everything I do. And with that being said, they're making all sorts of things illegal. Collecting rainwater, living off grid. Is that you, Lloyd? Let me see. The legal system is a load of bollocks and can be traced back to the Vatican. I'd agree with that, my TV, but if you look further back, I mean, biblically speaking, the first person to start making laws was Tubal-Cain. So it goes further back than just the Vatican. Tubal-Cain said, you know, whoever hits Cain, Cain is avenged sevenfold. Whoever strikes me, I will be avenged sevenfold by seven. So you think it's because they can't make relays or signal boosters? I mean, if you guys look at it, you can have great internet in buttfuck nowhere, like Black Sun says. I mean, if you guys ever look into ham radio, anybody familiar with that? Ham radio is basically communications. They're still done to this day, but you need the FCC license to do it. But if you have an FCC license, it's only like $15. Once again, you can always pirate the radio, but you know the FCC has a nasty habit of catching people. But through ham radio, not only can you broadcast radio signals, you can also digitally broadcast television stations. And on top of that, you can digitally broadcast internet. I've known people who've done amazing things with their ham radio licenses that have actually set up internet grids and have been able to get online for free through their ham radio setup. Yeah, Black Sun, AM radio is traceable. But you got to remember, if you're working with any frequency is traceable to some degree. But I lost my thought. You still with me, Lloyd? That is a negative. By the way, if you guys have not seen the link to the show, let me go ahead and post it for you if you guys want to jump in here tonight. Bear with me 2 seconds. Aha, I think I found it. And Viola, as the French say. Just click that link and jump on in. By the way, my TV, we haven't heard your sweet voice on the show yet. You gonna hop in? Looks like Amanda's here. Hi, Amanda. Just posted the link, you guys. Come on in. The subject is randomness for right now. But, you know, tomorrow you'll have 3 black choppers as an excuse. Yeah, have you guys ever seen the black choppers that have actually shown up in Miami? When they were doing the hell, what's that thing that they did? Jade Helm 15. You guys remember Jade Helm 15, right? Oh, hey, Doc.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, you know, I'm just spewing my insanity.
All good, all good. Hey, I wanted to jump in and talk about this really quick. Am I
Go ahead,
talking
Doc.
over you? Am I talking over anybody?
Oh, hell no.
I just want to talk about New Jersey. There's a new law that's going through the Senate. Now, this new law that's going through the Senate is a law where educators, teachers have to teach students how to interact with the police from kindergarten all the way through high school until they graduate. So
Really?
yeah. So what they're trying to do here is condition everybody, getting ready for martial law, like getting you to be compliant with the police. And like they're putting like all the burden like on the civilians, like you can't speak up or anything if you think you're being treated, unjustly or unfairly. Um, really bad stuff. It's like, it's so bad. It's like the NWO is just coming out and saying, listen, there's nothing you could do. We're taking the kids, we're taking the next generation that's coming up, and we're just making compliant citizens who will never question anything. It's a really scary kind of concept, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, I mean, where the state is stepping in as the parents, essentially.
Pretty much. They're pretty much going to teach like kids from kindergarten until they're out of high school that you can't question the police, you can't question how you're being treated. You basically, your civil rights, you don't have any. You got to be compliant. You got to be super respectful to the police. Now, there are some like civil liberty groups here in Jersey that are making an uproar about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's something that's not cool at all. It's pretty much
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
like
was about this. That's like fucking Stalinism right there.
oh, dude, it's crazy. When I was looking this over today and reading about it, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you're gonna tell these kids like they can't question any kind of way they're being treated if they're being having an unjust law thrown upon them. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy. It's turning the next generation of children into these compliant drones who won't
Wow.
think for themselves, will never question authority. It's like terrible. It's like how
That's
much
insane. What does the
yeah.
leadership have to say about this?
They're the ones that are toting it, Cube. They're the ones that are pushing. Like the senators are saying,
Jesus.
yeah, it
And
passed. Like
it
the House.
passed?
Well, it didn't go through the Senate yet, but it's passed the first obstacle. I guess representatives of the state or whatever, congressmen, the lower house
Well,
of the
at the
state
risk.
approved it. Cube 79-0 approval.
What? Oh my God. That's
Yeah.
insane. Well, at the risk of the ATF kicking on my door, do you need me to run you guys up some guns there, Doc?
Oh, dude, please bring me some, you.
You guys could just take a trip down to Florida, man. They pretty much give them shits away.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing about Florida. Second Amendment rights are still available, and that's what's up. Here in
Oh,
Jersey,
jeez, Doc.
yeah.
What do you guys do against that if it passes? I mean, can you
there's nothing you can do. It's like law. Like teachers, teachers are gonna have to teach this indoctrination, brainwashing, curriculum to these kids, and it's already bad enough as it is. The public school systems. I mean, it's pretty much Luciferianism that's going through it. Lucifer is in the public school systems, whether people want to believe it or not. Everything about school is an indoctrination of getting the next generation ready to be the loyal servants that they want. And it's working.
Fucking horrific, man. And nobody's standing. Well, it is New Jersey.
Well, there are people standing up, Cube. Like I said, there's groups that are opposing it. I've heard of it.
That's almost Orwellian.
Oh, it's exactly
That's not even.
Orwellian.
That's not even. Yeah, that's not even almost. That is fucking Orwellian.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, without a doubt. It's here. I mean, it's not even like, and people, and I'm sure there's a good number of people that totally support this new law that is coming in. This is a horrendous law. It's something that is just straight up brainwashing and indoctrination. Why is everything got to be all the burden on the civilians to be respectful? They say to not question anything, and the police can treat people,
Wow.
as badly as they want, and they
Not
don't
only
want
is
you.
it, yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Not
want
only
you
is
to
that.
question it.
Not only is that taking away your Second Amendment, but they're going after the First
Oh
and
yeah,
the
it's
and the Fourth.
unbelievable, Cube. I couldn't believe it when I was reading it today, and I couldn't believe that the representatives um passed it 79-0. There wasn't
Jesus.
one person in the whole in the whole capital of New Jersey in that house in that that did not oppose this bill. It is insane. And
I
it's going to
can't.
pass. Watch. It's going to pass.
The entire Northeast, it's going to spread like fucking wildfire.
Oh, without a doubt, the Northeast is done, Cube. It's libtard city. Okay.
I tell you what, California and the West Coast is going to be the same exact way.
Oh yeah, both the coasts are gone. Done.
Well, that depends. You got North Carolina, you got Florida, you got Georgia. They're not gonna put up with that shit.
Okay, I could agree with that, but I'll say the Northeast corridor is
Oh
done.
yeah, the Northeast and the West Coast, done.
Yep, done. Down the
Just
drain.
fucking done. Oh my god. Okay, I never thought it only needs one state to start with, and bam,
Oh
they all
yeah,
start rolling
I'll keep you
downhill.
posted on how it's going. Now I want to see how this bill. I'm going to track this bill, and there's no doubt in my mind that this bill will get passed. There's people in the state that are you put a chicken in everybody's pot and they're content. You know what I mean?
Fucking brainwashed, Jesus.
And it's like nobody wants to question it or come out and say anything. It's like people are scared. I get it. You're scared, but seriously, I mean, we need to talk about these things. These things need to be out in the open. People deserve to know the truth. It's just getting worse and worse, man. It's like,
And as I said before, it was only a matter. I guarantee you, once they start rolling this en masse. Remember how we talked about before, where like all the shit that they were using overseas, in Iraq, the drones and shit. It's just a matter of time before they turn that fucking technology against the citizens.
oh, it's already here, Cube. They're already using drones and everything. Don't think they're not. Don't
Oh, I
think
know
they're
they
not.
are.
Oh, of course they are. Flying above, the atmosphere, or above the chemtrail clouds, so you can't see them.
Oh
But
yeah.
they're there for sure. They're definitely there. It's
You might have to get the fuck out of Jersey, Doc. You're gonna have to change your name from Jersey Claus to something else.
yeah. You ain't kidding, man.
Hey, all I gotta say is my girlfriend started calling you Jersey Claus, and it kind of stuck.
It's funny. I kind of like that.
Jersey Claus, spreading good tidings of doom.
Yeah, right. Nothing joyful over here.
Oh, dude, we are so fucked.
Oh no, we're definitely fucked. It's bad, and there's just not enough people who are awake and know the truth to stop this. I mean,
It's gonna be
yeah.
It's gonna have to be the Midwest that takes all this on, man. Everybody's gonna have to start moving to the hills of Appalachia, man.
You're not kidding. You're not kidding. It's getting bad, man. It's getting bad that we can't, you know, our children and the children of the world can't grow up with a free mind and learn and think for themselves.
Not at all.
It's really, yeah, it's really sad. Really sad.
The indoctrination is complete. And, you know, that's another thing. You know, we talk about the war in the Middle East and the Greater Israel Project and, you know, the opium that comes out of there. Because you got to remember, it's a several-pronged beneficial things that happen in the Middle East. But here's another thing. They're practicing for us. They're going to turn around. They're going to bring the troops back. And they are going to use all that knowledge they had of killing people in caves to killing people at home.
Yep.
I don't care what you say about patriots and troops and stuff like that. Just like any other fraternal order, the military is another cult.
Yeah, it has. Yes, it is.
Ask any Marine. It is a cult.
It is.
And you will not disobey a superior officer. And if that superior officer, I don't care what you believe, or the troops are on our side, man. No, they're not.
It's not.
If they label you a terrorist, that's a trigger word. Boom. No mercy.
General Smedley Butler told you what war in the military is all about a long time ago. Said war is a racket. He never went to war for the United States, but he did go to war for the United Food Corporation.
That's for sure. Well, we went to war for the corporation of the United States.
Yeah, pretty much. You ain't kidding there.
By the way,
hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, much better. You don't sound like a Decepticon.
All right.
Now.
All right, I got my headphones in.
Perfect.
Microphone standard with the laptop. So I mean, that's as far as my setup goes. Trayson, if you could hear this, I just dropped the link in the description box. I saw your comment there.
His plight. Nice. So, yeah, before you were so rudely interrupted, care to continue where you left off, Lloyd? Nah, I'm just kidding. Your kid sounds adorable.
He's my buddy.
Yeah, man.
That's good.
Little man.
Where were we?
We were at, drumroll please, Martin Shkreli Trail and the sham that is the USA jury trial.
Okay, Martin Shkreli is a...
Oh, I fucked that name up.
Yeah, it's a crazy name. I just know it because I've listened to videos that he's done before.
Is it Jewish?
This guy... Oh, that part up. But this guy is a pharmaceutical creator. He's created a lot of drugs that are helpful to people. People basically call this guy, you know, the devil, because what he did was he increased the price on a lot of these drugs.
Oh, that asshole!
Allegedly did that. Which, for many of the drugs that he's accused of increasing the price on, like, for instance, the EpiPen, for people who get, like, a bee bite or something like that, you get the EpiPen to stop the, he had nothing to do with that. And I've listened to his videos to why he increased the price of the drugs, and it makes a lot of sense. He says, you know, when you have a new drug that you want to create, you got to do a lot of research and development. It costs a lot of money to develop a new drug. Increase the price of his drugs so he could make the money. And this is how capitalism works. So he could make the money R&D to create new drugs. Like, you know, there's drugs for AIDS patients and cancer and all different kinds of things. But this guy is basically, you know, the most evil person in the world. And he's now on trial for there's a couple charges, but it's for running a hedge fund that he was running with some pharmaceutical company. And right now he's going through jury selection. The reason I bring this up is because people from, off the street, citizens to, and they all know him as the guy that raised the prices on drugs, that's stopping kids from getting the medicine they need. So he's painted as this horrible bad guy. When I looked into it, many of the drugs they're saying he increased the price on, he didn't. And when you look at the price of the drugs, it's nothing compared to these big pharma companies that increase the price on drugs all the time. And this guy's just like he's like going his own way. He's not involved with like Purdue or GlaxoSmithKline or the other top, you know, pharmaceutical industrial complex groups. The reason I brought this up is all these people have this guy guilty in their mind before the trial even starts. And in the United States, you're supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So we got to assume that this guy's innocent until he's been proven guilty. The way these, jury trials go, and the jury was like the last, safeguard for justice that we had in the United States. You can get fucked over 7 ways to Sunday by the government and all these other groups, but when you take your jury of a group of your peers, that's your chance to, innocence and not getting put in jail or fined or whatever. So, I mean, I've seen this. This is just in the news now, and this guy is a very controversial person. Oh, how the jury trial in the United States, and when people get these summons for jury duty, many of them don't want to do it. They don't want to be involved. They look at it as it's a pain in the ass. And they do state it if you have work and stuff like that. They do pay you to go to be on a jury. But as American citizens, it should be our duty to go and be on a jury. That every single citizen in the United States should have a duty to level of intelligence and have a certain level of understanding of the law. Imagine your life, you didn't do it, you know and you go into court and you have a jury trial, and you get a bunch of fucking like social justice warriors, and let's say let's just say you're a white cop accused of killing a black guy.
Right.
That's his grass. That's why they don't send these police to jury trials. They have their own investigation. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. It'll come to me. But they do their own sort of court system when it comes to things like that. Count on the citizens today in the United States, especially, to be smart. Like, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, even know anything about the law. And I don't expect anyone to be a, amateur lawyer or anything like that. Does anyone in the chat or, anyone on the show think that if you were on trial for your life, or, a family member, a loved one, whatever it was, and you had to rely on the jury to not convict you about your citizens, do you think that you would get a fair trial? You think you'd get a fair shake? Or, would you be like me and be worried that you're going to get a majority of people that are about their cell phone, the new iPad, what's going on Facebook and shit like that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But you know, just to do the other side of the flip of the coin, that depends on what kind of law you're going into, because you know a lot of people don't get picked for just civil trials out there. They got corporate law as well, and UCC code. If you go to any court and you see the United States flag with the gold fringe around it, that's not the United States. That's maritime law. You're familiar with that, right, Lloyd?
Yeah, you know, I just, you know, the one time I don't even know where I was, but I saw the American flag and I saw the around it, and I remember asking someone, you know, what's the gold trim mean? How come some flags have the gold trim and some don't? I'm sure it's not just for, you know,
To look pretty.
and no one knew. I didn't get a straight answer until I started reading. And this is a book that I suggest that every person gets, and it's the Black's, like the color
Law
black,
dictionary.
Black Law Dictionary. And you want to get one of the first, you know, or editions, because they do change them. You know, shit goes down the memory hole. And, you know, in court has its own language. And this language is called legalese. And, you know, there are words, like they use English words, but the words don't mean the same thing as what they mean to you and me. Like the word, you know, person or citizen or actor. You know, these words mean different things. And like you go into court and you don't know this stuff, especially if you are, you know, representing yourself before. If you don't know this stuff, you know, your ass is grass. Run you right through the ringer, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. You, with this maritime law, once you agree to represent the corporation that they're saying you are subject to the penalties that go along with that. You know, to us, a person is people. You know, I'm a person, you're a person. So, like, when we hear the word person, you think, okay, that's just people. Person is something different, like
Yep.
a citizen, for instance. You know, when you agree to be a person, you're a human being. You know, natural laws and this maritime law are not the same thing. Like, you'll hear people like, for instance, you need a driver's license. A driver's license is only if you're conducting commerce or you're doing interstate commerce. So if you're driving a bread truck, you drive a truck that picks up auto parts for you know, an auto parts store, do that. In your car to go for a ride with your family to the lake, you don't need a license to do that. You don't need a license to drive your car and take your family somewhere because you're traveling, you know. Driving is with commerce involved.
Which
But,
is
you
why
know,
everybody should look up common law.
yeah, but to you and me driving, you just say, yeah, I was driving. Me and my family drove to the lake. Say, like, yeah, you were driving. And you'll be like, yeah. So you just agreed that you were engaged in commerce, thus you required a license, and you just admitted guilt in court when you basically were tricked into it. You didn't even know that you did it. But Black's Law Dictionary is a must-have book. I mean, and it's, don't think just because it ain't just for criminals or something. You know, you never
Oh no.
know when you may need this.
By the
Like, for
way, I just
instance,
want to. Oh, sorry.
go
Go ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Amanda just joined in, just to give you a heads up. Hey, Amanda.
She may
Hey,
be.
sorry, I had it on mute. I'm at work. I muted it, but I'm
Got it.
listening.
You better be listening. This is important stuff.
Yeah, no, I learned stuff.
I'm glad you're here. Glad to have you.
Not for me, I'm sure.
No, y'all good. I learned stuff from both of y'all.
Hey, I learned something every show. I'm glad that we have, different people popping on. We got some new faces I see. I don't know. I posted that link in the description. Trey
Right.
saying he can't get into the show. I don't understand why.
You know, getting
Blocked her.
Trayson on the show is like pulling teeth. Sorry, buddy. Love you.
Hashtag.
Love you. I was about to say, I
Hashtag
love your
pulling
stuff.
teeth.
Love your stuff, Trayson. It's just impossible to get you on this damn show. By the way, for you guys who don't know, this is the show that you'll lose all your friends to. Moving on.
Do you guys have anything you want to? Law, the court system, juries. If you have any stories about court where you got screwed over, anything you want to?
I have a fun court story.
Would you like to share it?
If nobody else is going, sure. I once actually got called to jury duty, and it was for a possible murder. And it was interesting because, the defense lawyer happened to be Jewish. And let me tell you what, when you come in for jury selection, they scan. You know what I'm talking about, right, Lloyd?
No, keep going.
Well, basically, they scan the room, just left and right, they are reading everything about it. These guys are trained. These lawyers are trained to read people. I mean, it was fun because the first, the judge asked us, does anybody have a problem or is anybody anti-police here? So I raised my hand. I didn't figure they'd ask me why, but they asked me why. I'm like, well, it's not really the police that I have a problem with as much as it's state enforcement. So that was, you can definitely tell the DA, the prosecuting attorneys, didn't want me on the jury selection, but apparently the defense attorney thought that was interesting. So he's like, this guy, I swear to God, he talked like Larry David, just so his inflections and everything. Mr. Smith, I've been meaning to get around to you. I was like, yeah, okay, this should be fun. He's like, when the previous juror said that only police should have guns, you look like you were ready to fall out of your chair. I said to him, you're good. Because apparently there was a juror before who stated, it's weird because all these jurors were talking about themselves in the interviews, and I couldn't care less. I would never talk about myself. These guys thought they were on court TV, I swear to God. But one of them said, I believe only police should have guns. And I must have rolled my eyes something fierce. But then it gets to me. It says here, Mr. Smith, you're into conspiracy theories? What is that, Mr. Smith? Like, I guess you could say it's an alternative view on history. So he's like, oh, is that kind of like alternative facts? The jury kind of laughs. I'm like thinking to myself, all right, asshole, you're on. Mr. Smith, what kind of conspiracy theories do you look into? So I start listing them off. I was like, the Kennedy assassination, the World Banking Cartel, the Order of the Freemasons, and I was just about to get to Zionism, and he cut me off.
Oh, you
Thank you,
lost
Mr.
him
Smith.
with the Freemasons.
Oh yeah, he's like, thank you, Mr. Smith. That'll do. Needless to say,
Well,
I
you
guess
know
he
how
didn't
many
want me
judges and
anymore.
lawyers are Freemasons?
Oh, I know. That's exactly why I said it. Douchebags.
Well, now I know how to get out of jury duty. That's awesome.
Well,
That could
everybody should do
backfire
it.
on you, though, and the defense might want you,
That's the thing. That defense didn't want me that day. He's like, this guy's fucking nuts.
Just go in and say the Holocaust is fake.
Damn, and I was just about to get to that.
Then you're done. Okay, thank you. Please escort this person out of the building. We won't need their services. Thank you.
Right?
I never got picked. I got summoned it was just nonsense stuff. There was no murders or anything like that, but
Hello?
I hate court. I got screwed every time I went to
I was
court for anything. I always wound up getting big fines and everything. Fuck them.
Trayson, I'm gonna put the link on my Google Plus page, and I'll do
Actually,
that
I'm
right
already
now.
on. Actually, I'm already on.
Oh, you got it?
Yep, hold on. Gonna tag him. So keep talking about what you were talking about.
Well, if anyone else doesn't have anything, I'll move on to the next topic.
If you can't find this, Trayson, you're dead to me.
All right, we're gonna move on
I'm
to
sorry, I didn't
the
hear what you said. What did you say?
share about court, juries, anything like that before we move on.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
Stories. I was getting charged with
Damn it.
some crimes that I know I didn't commit, and the judge and the lawyers were. I walked in and they said, "Where's your lawyer?" And I said, "I'm going to represent myself." Whole courtroom busted out laughing at me. Whole room full of people look at you and laugh. It's kind of like irritating. I was like, "What? I'm representing myself. I'm not kidding. Like, this ain't a joke." There. So they said, "Whatever, you know." And it came down to, and this is important. I've told this to a lot of my friends have saved themselves trips to jail. When you go to court, in all courts in the United States, I live in Pennsylvania, so the legalese is the same everywhere. But they'll ask you if you want to waive to court. What does that mean? Do I have any other options? What are my options? And the judge and the lawyers aren't there to give you legal advice, so technically they're not allowed to tell you. If you don't know these legal terms, you're screwed. So the judge was kind enough to tell me, he's there, well, you could either waive it to court, you waive your rights. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to waive my rights. That doesn't sound good. I said, what's the other option? He's there, you could say held for court or hold for court. Well, then you'd hold your rights, and then you would have the rights to a preliminary trial. You would have the right to what's called a discovery package. You do have to pay for it, but a discovery package will show you the evidence against you. Like, if you're being ratted out, or if they say they have you on video doing something, or if, the evidence being used against you, okay? So I said, no, I want to hold for court. Well, luckily I did, because when you waive your rights, you don't get a preliminary hearing, which means you're not allowed to go over the evidence, and most of the evidence that the cops have against you and the charges they're filing against you, okay? And what they do is they charge you up. They'll charge you with 5 or 6 different things. And then they'll say, okay, well, here's what you do. You plead guilty to these 1 or 2 things, and we'll drop all the other ones. When they didn't have a chance in hell at convicting you of these things. But they scare you. You see 5, 6 charges, you get nervous, and most people do. And they just want to take whatever, Judges and the police do not have to tell you the truth. They don't have to be honest with you. They don't have to tell you what's going on. They don't have to, if you're being screwed over, they don't have to point it out. And, 99% of the times, they're not gonna. So by holding for court, I was able to see against me and prove, like, well, you said, you called this phone number and you talked to this person. Well, that's not my phone number. You didn't talk to me. And here we're looking for name as me. The only difference was our age. the person they were looking for was older. So it's like, you got the wrong person, But if I wouldn't have been able to see this evidence against me and I wasn't able to point this stuff out and I would have waived my rights, or and then they charge you, they basically do whatever they want to you and you don't have a chance to take it to court. You're done. Take it from me. Something could happen to you. It could be something as simple as a traffic ticket, or, God forbid, you get accused of something you didn't do, like I did. No, at least a minimal amount of information to navigate the legal system. And like I said, words, the same words in English that we do, but they have different meanings. It's called legalese, a lawyer, and to to magic. And I know a lot of people laugh when you tell them magic is real, but if I can use words like casting a spell and get you to do something, like mind tricks or, brainwashing, whatever. But it's to say it's word magic, Do this. To be a lawyer, you have to be in, basically, it's not a fraternal because it's not just men, but it's still like a secret society. You have to be in the bar, you have to go through the bar exam and, pass that and get into their little clique. You can't just be a lawyer. People stick together. And, well, I live in a little small town in Pennsylvania, where of no importance, and our town council, there's 7 people on it, lawyer there to be like the I don't know what you would call, like a counselor, just for laws and different things to make sure they can do legally. And 7 members on this council plus that judge, that's 8 people. The 8 are Freemasons. Now, I mean, that's just in a little town in Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere of no importance. There's nothing here. You know what I mean? We have a few stores, but I mean, this ain't like New York City or Philly or Chicago or anything like that. And, the majority of people that run our local government, Freemasons. I was actually down at the courthouse in our county today, and, judges are Freemasons. The majority of policemen, I mean, people about Freemasons and they laugh. And, many Freemasons are just porch masons. They're, the first 3 degrees. They're not, involved in all the crazy shit we talk about, but many of them are. And, it's like a fraternal order, like Black Cube was talking about before. These people stick together, you know? If you're a Freemason and you get pulled over by the cops and that cop sees your Freemason, or those little badges they put on their cars, you're not getting a traffic ticket. You don't even have to know the person. Freemasons don't put other Freemasons in jail. That's part of their code.
And as you said, it's like governed by consent. And these people basically put that magical hoodoo on you with legalese. And if you are saying things in their language, you are consenting to be governed, which I highly do not recommend. And if you need any help, just remember the 3 words: I don't consent.
I just want to say, BDP, that was some really, really good advice. Hold for court, that's awesome. I think I never knew that before. And thank you, man. That was excellent, excellent advice and knowledge drop there. Good stuff.
In the newspaper, when court is going on, court goes in like in session. So every few months, like say January's traffic court, and they'll have all the traffic court people done in January, and then like say domestic relations is March, and the big murders and stuff like that. And I'm just making up But that's how it works. That's why sometimes you get a traffic ticket and it takes a while until you go to court. Well, that's why they do them all in one shot, kind of thing. And when you're in court, I've been in court a few times, they're gonna try to convince you to waive your rights. And like that's what they were saying to me. They're like, "You want to waive this, right?" Hold on a second. What do you mean? Because I didn't know what they were talking about. I'm like, "What do you mean waive it? Like you want to waive this to court, right?" And that's when I said, why? What do you mean waive it? What are my options? What could I do here? And they all just laughed in my face, a few minutes ago, pissed off. And I could like going into this before I had court, I didn't know about saying held for court. So if you don't know what to do and you're at like a prelim or something, and you're going to charges or fines or something, held for court. Do not waive your rights. You do not want to waive your rights. You don't have a right to trial. You don't have a right to find out, like you have the right to face your accuser. If you waive your rights, you just lost that right. Consent. When you say, I waive my rights, you just gave them consent to take your rights away. Rights are by definition cannot be taken away. That's what makes them a right. Otherwise, it's not a right. So the only way you could have your rights taken away is to give them away by consent. You have to be willing to. Like, for instance, I think it's the slavery amendment. It's either 13 or 14 top of my head.
I believe
But
that's
all
14th, I think. 14th.
Yeah, that would definitely be the 14th. You're right, Doc.
14th Amendment, that didn't free the slaves. What it did is it made everyone a slave. So instead of just having black people as slaves, it made everyone a slave as long as you consent to it. To being a slave, legal for you to be a slave. And we give our consent to things that we don't even understand. How many times are you at court or you're in like an office setting and the person there slides you a piece of paper with a bunch of writing on it and you just sign it without even reading it.
Yeah, to
You're
add
at
to your,
court, they hand you a bunch of papers. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to add to your point too, the 14th Amendment ensured corporate personhoods, which is the legal notion that a corporation, separately from its associated human beings, has at least some of the legal rights and responsibilities enjoyed by natural persons, physical humans. For example, corporations, and this is from Wikipedia, folks, corporations have the right to enter into contracts with other parties and to sue or to be sued. And going a little bit further, it says in 1886, it was clear that the Supreme Court had accepted the argument that corporations were people and that their money was protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. So there it is, folks. The 14th Amendment brings you the corporate slavehood.
But you're only
Right
a
there in
slave
Wikipedia.
if you give consent to it.
Exactly, but most people
They
don't
use
know
their
about
word
this.
magic. Yeah, they use the word magic and they trick you into consenting to being a slave. So,
Yep.
you can hee and haw and piss and moan all you want. Consent for these people, like, for instance, your income tax. They take it right out of your check without your permission. Well, what if you don't want to pay it? What if you don't agree to it? What if you don't want your taxes going to war and blowing up people in other countries? Like me, for instance. I'm anti-war. Unless, a country, United States, and start attacking the United States, or specifically Pennsylvania, then okay, yeah, I could see going to war. We don't want to have, army come here and attack us.
And it's not
But
like your
for no
taxes go to...
reason,
Sorry, go ahead.
continue.
I was just agreeing with you and saying it's not like your taxes go to anything other than the fucking corporate system anyway, so it doesn't
So
go
that's one
back in the
thing.
roads.
And, the last time the United States was attacked by a foreign military was over 200 years ago. That was the War of 1812, which was pretty much the Second American Revolution, if you're not familiar with that war. But I mean, one of the most, like that last show, I think it was the last show, we talked about money and, how that whole thing works. That's in one of my, the monetary system, where money comes from, how banking works. That's in my top 10 everyone must know this information sort of thing. Would be the whole thing with consent. We're ruled by consent, interact with our government, and we signed the contract with the government to allow them to rule us and create our laws. So when people complain about different things, you can complain all you want, but you've given these people your consent. And, the word magic is used over and over again. They're speaking in English, but the words don't mean the same thing. And people, I mean, they're not responsible to, teach you this stuff. It does take time. I mean, I went to public school. I did do a few years in Catholic school, and I'll tell you what, if I was in Catholic school, I learned more in that year and a half than my entire time in public school. But shit, after school, they're not going to teach you this in public education. They want you knowing about the way they just print the money up out of thin air and gamble away all of our, our nation's wealth.
And use you as collateral.
They use your children as collateral. It didn't matter to me when I didn't have a child, but now I do. And I mean, he's 1 year old, and he's already thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt.
Yep.
So right there, with consent, I'm giving my consent, allowing them to give him a birth certificate and a social security number. I'm allowing them, because I'm his parent, I'm his guardian. I gave my consent for them to turn him into a corporation, take that corporation, and make him responsible for this debt. And you think, oh, I'm just, your birth certificate. Everyone has a birth certificate. You got to get one of those, right? And it's like, because everyone else is tricked in consent, you're like browbeaten into it, And if you're to dare stand up and, go against the status quo, and it ain't even the government that will come after you. Your own people will. Start telling, your family members and friends you don't want your kids in public school. Start telling them that, you're a corporation, and you, by agreeing to represent your name in all capital letters, represent this corporation in the court of law, get sued or something like that, you're agreeing to be that corporation. That's why they ask you when you go to court, are you this? And you think in your head, well, yeah, I'm a person. Ask you, are you, Joe Smith? Are you this person? And you say, yeah, I'm that person. You just agreed to being a corporation when you're really not.
My TV in the chat. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying my TV in the chat makes a good point. It's like there's something called a certificate of live birth, but try getting your hands on it.
Yeah, that's the real thing. I mean, we talked about the maritime law. When goods are made, and let's just say we're making, blankets. Blankets are going to be shipped somewhere. They basically have a birth certificate made. I forget the exact name of it, but we'll just call it a birth certificate.
It's actually because they call it a birth. The ship, the ship being in the ship being in port is called birthing. You're absolutely right.
And then there's numbers that go along with it. Like, there's, this is item number 123. There's, 30 quilts in this, box, blah, blah, blah. it just like you're a product, and the words go along with it as well. Like when you go to court and they have that little wooden door that swings, little wooden door there for no reason. You know, that's just not to make the court look cool. There's a reason that the judge is up in a chair above you and, you know, you're on the same level as the judge. No. There's a reason you have to sit in those little boxes and, you know, the people are off and the jury's off to the side. Because when you're on a ship, the captain is the king on the ship, you know? He's in charge, he's the judge. And you go through that little door because once you go through that little door, yeah, like Lewis is saying, the birthing canal. That's why they use the word canal. When you go through that little door and you sit down as the defendant, it's a representation of boarding a ship. Consent to the rules that go along with that ship.
So
Yep.
I have a question.
I mean, I could... Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so you said, like, okay, you know, our birth certificate, you said it's all capital letters and whatnot. So how do
Yep.
you even, when you say, yeah, I'm this person, how do you get out of that? I mean, how can you avoid it? There's no way you can do that, can you?
You could
Because
go
you're
with
not a
the-
person.
You could go with the I'm the executor of said corporation. I mean, that's one way of doing it. You can say that you are, because they can't prove that you are you. You can say, look, I'm the executor of said corporation. I just, I execute the will of this corporation. I've seen that done before.
Really? Well, so when you saw that, what happened? What did they do? I bet they freaked out.
Oh, they freak the fuck out. You can just look up these videos on YouTube, like free man versus, I mean, a lot of them get shut down, but, you got to look at the more successful ones that actually have the judge leave the court. And when the judge leaves the court, if I'm not mistaken, that's a mistrial. So everything gets thrown out.
Okay,
Yeah, like this ain't like...
What videos is it? Like, what would I look up? Because I want to see those.
Usually they're under like the free man category on YouTube, like free man versus, that's FREEMAN. I know there's
Okay.
I was about to say,
I'll look it up.
definitely, my TV, I'm sure that there's plenty of cases over in Europe that have the Freeman movement, if I'm not mistaken.
Never call yourself a sovereign citizen. That makes no sense. People who know what sovereigns and citizens are will just laugh at you. That's like saying you're a jumbo shrimp. It means you have no rulers. It means you're your own ruler. We're supposed to be our own sovereigns. Citizen, like when you go and fill out a job application or something like that, and it says, are you a U.S. citizen? And you click that box and say, yeah, I have a ruler. So basically agreeing to be a citizen means you're a slave. You're given consent to that maritime law. And like Amanda said, like, how do you get around this? You can't just, go into court and say this shit and they're going to be like, oh, they got us. They know the secret. If the judge is a fair and real judge, he'll do the right thing, but many don't. And it's like Black Cube said, do a lot of people lose using this argument? Yeah, most of them do.
But if you have
It
Black's
works.
Law Dictionary on hand, I'm sure you can find a way to maneuver around it. But you better read
These
it.
lawyers.
Say what?
I just keep blabbing. You could jump in.
Oh, no, I think you cut off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. But what were you saying before you got cut off?
Anything you want to throw in there?
Doc?
Not on this topic. I don't know. Like, if y'all have any other topics y'all wanted to talk about.
Well, we've actually got 2 more discussions coming right up, so this is going to be a good show today. You want to go on to U.S. Supreme Court to hear Trump's travel ban, Lloyd?
Yeah, let's hear that one. What's going on with that?
Well, the Muslim travel ban has been shot down several times now. People are saying, it goes against religion, blah, blah, blah. I mean, to be Muslims wherever they want. They're just not welcome to be Muslims here. Permanent thing, We're at war with these countries. Europe, for instance, they're overrun with Muslim refugees that aren't vetted. They're just allowed to come in. How many of these terrorist events have we seen? But anyways, they're allowing Trump to do his ban. The Supreme Court is allowing a ban on foreign nationalists, which are people from other countries. There's a 90-day ban, people, and there's a 120-day ban on refugees. Now, this is only from countries, and those 6 countries are Iran, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, which, those 6 countries, might be a good idea there.
And that ban, oh,
But
sorry. I was just going to say real quick that ban was also done by the Obama administration with nobody up in arms. Same countries.
yeah, it's not Trump's ban. Trump is just doing a continuation of the ban that was already in place. I shouldn't even use that word. It's just a temporary ban till they could figure who these people are. Because a lot of people are sneaking in pretending to be refugees, and coincidentally, they just happen to be military aged men and pouring in, but you're not seeing women and children and the elderly coming in. But 2 countries that stood out on this ban list, and number 1 is Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is home to the Wahhabist sect of Islam. Think radical Islam, you're thinking Wahhabists.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Asimov. They are evil, evil people. I'm sorry. They are.
Yeah, they are. You're right. And another country that was on there is Iraq. And I was reading to why they didn't want Iraq on that list. Um, the State Department commented it that they were worried that the image of America suffer in the eyes of the people in Iraq. Now, keep in mind, since 2003, for 14 years, we've been bombing the shit out of Iraq. We have economic sanctions on them. So when there's economic sanctions, that means people are starving. That means people aren't getting medicine. And if you don't know how selling oil works, when you're an oil producing country, you can't just sell your oil to whoever you want. Dollar, the United States dollar. So what you have to do is when you want to sell your oil, say Iraq wants to sell oil to the European Union, they first have to convert that oil into United States dollars. So that's how the United States controls the oil market. One of the reasons they went after Saddam was his oil for food program. So the West puts sanctions on Iraq, no longer gets goods from the West and Europe. So now they're having a problem. Saddam's having a problem feeding his people. He starts trading his oil for food. And that breaks the petrodollar. And what happens is every time these oil producing countries convert into dollars, the people who have these dollars get a kickback. So it's like they charge a fee for doing it. And that's been propping up our economy for a long time. The reason I bring this up, and it goes in conjunction with Saudi Arabia, is prior to 1945, which was the end of World War II, Pennsylvania, exporter of oil in the world. A lot of people don't know that. I'm from Pennsylvania. I mentioned numerous times. So I'm a big, Pennsylvania fan. So prior to the end of World War II, Pennsylvania led the world in oil exports. And you heard of like Pennzoil, Quaker State. Those are popular oil brands from Pennsylvania. So prior to that, prior to World War II, Pennsylvania is the leading exporter of oil to the world. So after World War II, the United States goes to Saudi Arabia, and at this time, Saudi Arabia is still basically Bedouin tribes. They're riding camels, shit like that. So America makes a deal with them. They say, we'll come in, we will produce your oil, we'll put the trains in, we'll put the oil refineries in, we'll do all that stuff, we'll allow you to make the money, but the deal is you can only sell oil with American dollars. Thus, the American kickbacks by using the American dollar, it allows these banks, which are ran by the Federal Reserve, because we already talked about how the Federal Reserve prints our money. So this allows the Federal Reserve control the price of oil, but control who gets it. So they can stop people oil by not issuing the dollars. And oil is life. Without oil, you can't have an economy. In this world runs on oil. Oil is energy. Your car runs on oil. Electricity is made with oil. There's all different, products that come from crude oil, not just, gasoline and oil itself. So I'm trying to remember the name of that agreement.
Yet they won't drill here. Go figure.
Was it Bretton Woods? I might be thinking of something else. So after World War II, they give Saudi Arabia all this power, making the House of Saud, they're the rulers of Saudi Arabia now, which they're basically like, sell swords. They get this tribe, they make them royalty, billions of dollars by producing their oil fields. And make no mistake, the United States has more oil than the Middle East by far. That's something they don't want you to know. They want you to believe that oil is made from, old dinosaurs that decomposed and shit. That's a total lie. That's bullshit. Oil is a product of the earth, because many of these oil wells that went dry 100 years ago are now filled with oil again. Stores didn't die in. Go ahead.
Totally agree. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to butt in, but I totally agree. It's a natural occurring mineral on the planet.
I was just going to add to that.
We talked about this before, too.
I was just going to add in the fact that they're trying to keep it that way because, A, they want scarcity. That's one thing they don't want you to know, because if you have it in abundance, the price goes down. You keep it in a scarcity, you can raise the price to whatever you want. On top of that, that's why you don't see anything like fracking going on in this country, where we could get plenty out of the oil reserves. We've got plenty in Texas. We've got a shit ton in Alaska. The reason we don't do it here is because they weaponize the environmentalist. And the environmentalists are under the idea that, oh, we're protecting the United States environment. We're protecting the earth. But if you think about it, why is it not okay to drill here, but it's fucking perfectly okay to drill in Saudi Arabia? Do you think they have better environmental controls than we have in the United States? Get real.
Well, just think of the control and power that we've given them. Like Saudi, like the OPEC, the oil producing countries, wouldn't be shit without the United States and the West producing their oil. We created that problem. So we created Saudi Arabia. Now is the Wahhabist, you know, section of Islam. There's Shiites, there's Sunnis, and then, you know, Shiites is like Iraq, like Iran. The Arabs are Shiites, the Persians are Sunnis. Saudi Arabia is the Wahhabist section, and they're a small section. Wahhabists in the power. We give them the control and the money with the oil. We allow them to do whatever they want. You know, like Israel says that Iran is the biggest exporter of terrorism in the world. That's bullshit. Is the leading exporter of terror in the world. And who is Wahhabist Islam most buddy with? Israel.
And considering that the Wahhabists are really Mossad.
Yeah, they're the same thing. There's no difference.
What were you saying, Amanda?
So, I mean,
No,
is
I was
Amanda
just saying
talking?
that it was yeah, I would say it was hypocritical
Oh, sorry, go
that
ahead.
they do that over there. You know, they can't do it here because the environment, like you said, but it's okay to do it over there.
Well, I could tell you this, just from my research. There is a oil reserve in Alaska. It's called the North Slope of Alaska. Oil there to run the United States for a few hundred years. There's also one of the biggest oil deposits in the world. It's near the Rocky Mountains, and it's called the Bakken. The Bakken, if we opened up the Bakken, the United States would not only be able to oil, we not only would we be energy independent to supply the rest of the world with oil. About foreign oil in the United States, many people think of the Middle East, and that's not true. The majority of our oil in the United States comes from Canada and Mexico.
What was it called?
And you know, the back end.
If we open
BEN.
up the back end.
Let loose the back end.
Get the lube.
Get your mind out of the gutter. You guys have been drinking too much bone broth tonight. You gotta dial it down a little. You got your mind in the gutter.
But if we open up the back end, we can let out the
If we open
black
up the
stuff.
back end, all the bone broth will. I don't know. I kind of went off on a left field adventure, but
first, let's open up the back end.
You gotta open up the back end, Azimuth.
we got to open up the back end first.
That's right.
We're gonna
Jersey
use-
Claus, open up that back end.
Oh,
I could put my my webcam on and do some twerking in the webcam for you guys.
Will that open up the back end?
Definitely, yes. I got the portal from CERN.
Sorry, guys.
Go to my anus.
We're taking a break to Silly Town for a second. But
A little
first,
comic relief.
we're going to open up the back end.
But like I was saying, let's get back to
The back end.
back to the topic. Now we have like hashtag back end.
Back to the back
That'll
end.
be like a running joke.
I think we're moving
But think
on.
this
We still
well,
got
the
the white.
Muslim ban. I mean, we have
Okay.
these 6 countries of Iraq and most of all Saudi Arabia on that list. You know, if the story from 9/11 is true, 17 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Not put a travel ban on Saudi Arabia. Their design is to use Saudi Arabia to export the terrorists. I mean, we talked about what they're trying to do to Yemen. What the hell's the name of that place? It just slipped my mind.
Qatar.
Yeah, Qatar. We see what they're doing to Qatar. The eyeballs off them is to accuse someone else of the things that they're doing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And for a travel ban in Mexico. I mean, I've talked about this before. There's a lot of illegal Mexicans just in the town where I live. And, Pennsylvania is many miles
Oh, you're
from the
with. So you can
border.
imagine how many is here in Texas. You can just imagine if there's that many up there.
They're everywhere. When we hear that number, there's 11 million. From, my research, I would say there's at least 50 million in the United States.
Yeah,
And,
there's so many more than that.
I've never been to Texas. I've been all over the East Coast, Southern California. And I mean, Southern California is loaded. Well, now, obviously, it's right next to the border, but I mean, these people aren't coming here to become citizens. I know some illegals. What the hell are you doing? How did you make it to this small town in Pennsylvania? And they came basically because NAFTA had land they lived on for hundreds of years, their family owned. When NAFTA came in, and you were a Mexican living in rural, especially northern Mexico, you had one of two options. The government was coming in, they were taking your land, and there was nothing you can do about it. So you can either move to Mexico City, insanely densely populated, it's one of the biggest cities in the world, then that's south, or you could go north into the United States. And I believe that these illegals were immigration policy was deliberate. They wanted a massive influx because they incentivized it. I know legal Mexicans, they get food stamps. They're not even citizens and they get food stamps in Pennsylvania. I know people, I wouldn't even consider myself middle class. My family does pretty decent. I'm not on the low end of this area, but low end of the totem pole here. And for these people to want to move here, it's pretty crazy. But they come here, they work, and they send the dollars. Go.
They
One of,
Western Union and MoneyGram all of it back. I see it all the time, every day in the store, 24/7.
yeah, me too. Well, I mean, probably not as much as you, but there is a Rite Aid. I don't know if you're a like pharmacy store kind of thing. It's like a Walgreens or a kind of stores you would have, but it's a pharmacy and a small store, general store, and they have a Western Union there. Mexicans in there talking Spanish on the phone. They're sending money over the phone. One of Mexico's biggest imports is dollars. When you have an economy, the money back into your own economy. That hurts our economy that they're sending dollars outside the United States.
At least their biggest export is Telemundo. Yeah.
It's funny that Carlos Slim, he's a billionaire from Mexico, and like calling cards and all that shit. He has like modern day mafioso gangster. I mean, he has control of so much of the Mexican economy. I want illegals here, no, but I don't hold it against these people. They had their land taken off them. about Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, and we talk about how they're going to, like we were talking about it earlier, moving people off their land out of rural sections of the United States and moving them into the cities. Talk to them like, oh, that won't happen here. They
It's
do
already
it in other
begun.
countries. Yeah, they do it in other countries as a testing ground. Mexicans off their land, they can certainly move us off our land. And, you know, they want division. That's why they move all these refugees in here. Get a bunch of different groups that aren't acclimated to each other. You have division. It's just natural to their own kind, the human thing. And that, you know, part of the whole Babylonian system is to have us infighting against each other. And that's why I brought
Hegelian
up the
dialectic.
whole, that's why I brought up the whole travel ban. So if, if they really wanted to ban radical Muslims, countries they picked are, terrorist, ridden countries. But how could you not have two of the top biggest terrorist exporters in the world on that list? For another reason, because it's not to stop the United States.
So on 9/11 was basically because wasn't Saudi Arabia at this time trying to move away from the petrodollar, and isn't that why they had to find a way to blame them to go to war with them?
Well, we should have gone to war with Saudi Arabia for that instance. We knew right then and there the Bushes were flying out the Saudi families, and with the
Yeah, but then if we did that, if we went after Saudi Arabia, we would have to go to war with Israel.
I know, but at the same time, those are the people we should have gone after. I'm not saying, from the standpoint of the United States, we shouldn't have gone to war with Israel. I don't give a fuck if Israel is behind it or not, and I don't give a fuck about the whole God's chosen people myth. They fucked us over. We should have gone to war with them. Case closed.
Should have gone to war with Israel when they hit that false flag on us during the 7-Day War. I mean, that was unforgivable.
They bombed one of the boats, right? The USS Liberty?
They bombed the USS Liberty.
Exactly. If we were going to go to war to anyone, they killed a bunch of our soldiers and they destroyed our ship for no reason and just let it go like it was okay.
And that was a naval intelligence boat.
Yeah, it was a naval intelligence boat, but still, it didn't deserve provocation or anything. They just attacked it. It was just, and they knew it was United States. There's reportings of Israeli pilots being asked there's a flag here. It's the United States. They still were told to attack.
Yeah, what was their excuse for that against Jersey Claws?
The excuse was they were trying to say like, oh, it was a mistake. They didn't know. They didn't mean to do it. They literally did say that, and it was like brushed off like it was okay. But that's not
bullshit.
Not the truth. They knew it was an American ship. They have recordings of the pilot and command speaking to each other. And they're like, do you see the flag? And they're like, yeah, it's American. They kept saying, should we attack? Should we attack? And the officer was like, yes, attack. They told him to go ahead, yeah. So it was
the reason they did that was because Israel was committing war crimes against Egypt. Want the U.S. naval intelligence to intercept their communications. The USS Liberty was a naval intelligence ship. It's called full spectrum dominance. They don't do things just for one reason. There's always multiple reasons for the things they do. So they figure, here's what we're going to do. We're going to attack the Liberty, their communications, so they don't know what we're doing when we do this attack on. And then we're going to blame Egypt for it, and we're going to trick the Americans into fighting our war, which they've done multiple times over and over and over again. fight in Israel's wars. Egypt out of the out of the picture because the Greater Israel Project says land east of the Nile River. And that they would also be in control of the canal there. It's the Suez Canal, I believe.
Yes, sir. You're correct.
And I mean,
Yep.
the Suez Canal is what is a insanely now because it allows ships to go from the Mediterranean Sea, Asia, and India. Otherwise, you got to go all the way around Africa. So I mean, that's a key piece of land in the world, economically, but military.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about 9/11 for a second?
Go for it.
Since Amanda brought it up.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. No, not your
Hold
bad.
on.
No.
Hold
it's a
on
good
1 second. I'm going to give my kid his bottle, and I'll be right back. Like 1 minute.
Always a good topic.
That's so
9/11.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you guys remember that fire that Jeff was talking about on his show?
Yeah.
The one in London, the
Funny.
apartment building.
Yeah.
That's still standing up, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. I was about to say it had a full-fledged fire. You didn't see any steel beams melt then, did you?
Yeah, nothing collapsed at all, and it burned for over. Didn't it burn for 24 hours?
Like
yeah.
the whole building was on fire. Like the whole complete building was engulfed.
Versus what? 2 hours and then topple over like a domino?
Oh yeah, that was a free energy weapon for sure. Like Judy Wood says, I gotta read that book though. I haven't researched it.
I'm still under the belief that it's controlled demolition personally, but
Yeah, no, I can see that too. Building 7 was definitely controlled demolition without a doubt.
Yeah, it fell down because reasons.
Office
What the
fires. They said office fires, and people were like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
By the way, supposedly that building caught fire because of a faulty refrigerator. And keep in mind that this is the kind of stuff that they want with the mega cities. Everybody's going to be living in one of those type of buildings that skyrise. And if they can put a huge population that they don't want in shitty buildings, and then all of a sudden your refrigerator goes off and bam, over 600 people lose their houses or die, that would work pretty nice for solving overpopulation. What do you two think?
Yeah, they can take you out easier because you're all centrally located. It's easier to take you out. You would be trapped.
Oh, you poor immigrants. Why don't you come here and live in one of our megacity, Building 1, that we basically insulated with nothing but match heads and fucking C4.
Yeah, insulated with thermite.
Pretty much.
Yeah, plastic explosives right everywhere.
Exactly. A refrigerator caught it on fire.
Yeah,
so
that's
the
laughable.
Story that they're saying now, because I was going to ask y'all if y'all had looked up anything about that building.
Oh yeah, it was a faulty. Yeah, it was a faulty refrigerator according to the news, and I'm like thinking, well, damn, they've never heard of building a firewall. That is kind of.
One refrigerator caught the building on fire like that. So no sprinkler system, nothing. You got to be kidding me.
Nope, no sprinkler system. I think they were cutting corners. Wouldn't you say, Doc? I don't think that building matched code, did it?
Definitely didn't match code at all. No sprinkler system, no fire-resistant sheetrock, no firewall. It was terrible. But, it was in, like, one of the greatest business bastions in the world, right down there in the whole World Trade Center.
Oh,
now
yeah.
we have an obelisk sitting in New York City, just a single tower.
Ooh, that's spooky. You know, the Masonic 2-to-1.
Yep.
That's definitely interesting.
Oh yeah, that make no mistake, that whole 9/11 was nothing more. Also, it was definitely a political move, but it was also a spiritual move for sure.
Well, how many of you bought into it like I did that day? Because I was only 14 when that happened.
Um, I
I
was
was freaking out. I was like 21 when that happened.
But if you rewatch the news clips, you're like, wow, they're full of shit. Because they're like,
yeah.
and we found the terrorist passport, if you can believe that. I was like, you're right, I can't.
Oh
You're
yeah.
telling
Yeah.
you're telling me that paper survived the plane?
I know.
It's somehow neatly folded up in the building in front of you?
Not even a charred corner on it. It was perfect. Like it just came out of the printer.
Oh, I bought the story. I was nowhere near smart at
Just
21,
just
so
just watch it again. Just like watch the news clips from 9/11. And the reporter, I caught it. The reporter's like, if you can believe that. And I'm like, you're right, I don't.
Yeah, no, I didn't believe that, but I'm with Amanda there. I kind of bought in a little bit. They had me.
We all bought it because that's how they do these things, man.
Yeah.
They hype it up and shit just hit the fan. What the fuck is going on? I'll believe
I
anything you
was
tell me. Just
freaking
tell me
out
something.
because I lived on NASA Road 1 down like a few miles down from the Space Center, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna attack, because the Space Center's here. I was fucking flipping.
Oh yeah. But they're just freaking you the hell out because you're just like, I'll believe anything you tell me. Just make sense of it all. And that's how they work.
Yep. I watched the whole thing happen right on TV. So I was like,
And now,
no way it was an accident, though. I knew that because as soon as they were trying to tout it at first as like, oh, a plane accidentally hit one of the towers and everything, trying to play it off like they didn't know what was going on. But I knew right away it wasn't an accident. No way.
then the second one hit, and you're on, maybe it's not an accident after all.
Yeah, I was like, definitely not an accident. I'll never forget that day. I was on the phone with my homie Zoe, and we were talking about it, and I seen it hit, and I was like, no, it's no accident. I was like, that was done purposely. I was like, that's an attack. I knew it right away.
Did you ever see the BBC news broadcast where the reporter from the BBC, people forget about time zones. So sometimes they fuck up. I'm in LA, I'm in Pennsylvania. I would always call him at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 in the morning. And I'd be, did I wake you up? He's like, yeah. Dude, I forgot. There's a 3-hour difference. So 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm calling him, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning in LA.
Right.
So keep that in mind. So there's a BBC in England broadcast, and the broadcast is reporting that Building 7 and collapsed. And as the woman is doing the broadcast, they have a live picture of New York City behind her, and right over her shoulder. Now this is live. So she reported it fell down before it actually fell down. That they already knew that Building 7 was going to come down.
Yes, sir. It's so
And even
true.
Can you look up? Are we able to look up that clip?
You can find it on
Larry
YouTube.
Silverstein owned the World Trade Center complex at the time, right?
Yep.
He just bought them in March 2001. He takes out an insurance policy, which isn't odd. You would take, the World Trade Centers, you'd have insurance for something like that.
But
Takes out an insurance policy. Oh, the amount was in the billions.
Yep.
0.5 billion, right?
Yep, it sure
So he takes the insurance policy out. He has a clause put in about terrorism. Also has a clause, if anything happened to the buildings, he has the exclusive rights to rebuild. So 9/11 happens. when he goes to claim the insurance, right? He takes this, and this was a German insurance company, Silverstein. If you can't already guess what kind of person he is, it rhymes with Jewish. So he takes this
Bush.
German insurance company to court, and he claims that acts were not one incident, but two incidences. So he got double payment. He got the insurance on each building. He claimed each building as a separate attack, and the German had to pay him double. So he made
Can I just mention real
$3.5
quick?
billion on each building. Sure.
Can I mention real quick the irony that the Jewish guy who knew about 9/11 and insured it with a German company? You better pay me because
What?
of the Holocaust.
Oh, I'm sure he brought that up.
Don't try to Jew me out of my
You know,
money.
I got to put together some research here and make a video, or we'll have it on the show, and show the total amount of money that Germany has paid in reparations so far for the Holocaust. And they not only have given them money, Israel highly technologically advanced military equipment and destroyers and like intelligence vessels and stuff like that. So I mean, I just read an article how Israel just renewed the agreement to where Germany has to pay far into the future. So Germany is still paying for reparations for the Holocaust. Keep that in mind. Talk about being Jewed.
Well, to put things in a historic Christian perspective, and this is why I think Germany has always been overly screwed throughout history, is in Germany, Martin Luther was the one who started the Reformation. He's the one who brought the Bible out of the Catholic Church's hands and into the hands of the common man. He translated the Bible from Latin to German, and ancient Hebrew to German, which is the tongue of the common people. So I think personally, and this is just me going out on a limb here, I think personally that Germany's been screwed ever since, the Reformation, because they've been attacked by both the Vatican and they've been attacked by Zionism and the Jewish cabal. So the satanic cabal.
And all.
But long story short, the satanic cabal has always gone after Germany just because of the fact that they brought the Bible to the common man. And that's just my opinion.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, because now everyone is able to be aware, and look at all the money they lost because they were the only ones who had the Bible. So they were able to tell people whatever they wanted, and they got money out of tons of people. I mean, they took away their money.
And Germany screwed over the Vatican multiple times through history to Rome. Germany was never conquered by Rome. They couldn't take the Germans over, even though the Germans weren't a monolithic country. They were just tribes, and the tribes joined together in defense, where normally they would fight each other. So Rome tried conquering Germany numerous times, but couldn't do it. So, starting there. And then, like Black Cube says, then, they make the Holy Roman Empire, and they make Germany Christian, and they fold them into the fold. So now they're taking taxes off them. They got to pay their dues to Rome, to the church, which is just a mafia. The Emperor of Rome didn't just disappear. They didn't just turn to, democracy. What happened is the emperor changed his name. The Pope, the Vatican is in Rome. You know what I mean? So they didn't change, countries or even cities. The palace that the emperor lived in was just converted to the Vatican. And the Vatican, if you ever saw it, is a fortress. It has a 400-foot wall around it. So, like Black Cube says, then the Germans make the printing press, and Martin Luther exposes them to the common man, where before, indulgences, you had to pay money to get rid of your sins. And if you wanted to learn about God or the Bible, you had to go to the church and pay them money and go to their different churches and pay their, the basket gets passed around and they tell you you got to give up so much of your money. So Germany and the Vatican and Rome have a history going back for, thousands of years.
Yep.
And the same people that run the Vatican, it's all the Babylonian Luciferian system, whatever you want to call it. The Catholic Church isn't, a godly group. If you're Catholic, no offense, it doesn't mean, average Catholic person. I'm talking about the people that run the show. They hijacked Christianity and just used it as a, they
Stepping
weaponized yeah. And it's just for more empire building. So, I mean, it goes back that far. And, the Zionist Jews are a part of that same cabal. So when, Germany gets out of the Great Depression and they have someone like Hitler and Germany starts rising to prominence again, and, prior to the 1900s, Poland and, parts of Czechoslovakia of Germany, it was called Prussia. And Prussia was a pretty large empire. And, we're talking, this is going back to the, early 1800s and Napoleon, when Prussia and the Russians were starting to start working together. They were the last of the monarchs, and they were going against the Babylonian system. So Germany historically has been painted as the bad guy. And, the United States had concentration camps during World War II, just like Germany did. And,
Internment
this is one of
camps.
those things. Yeah, it's the same thing. They just changed the name. And during World War II, many Japanese civilians, but they were of Japanese descent, taken
Yeah,
away
they
from
put
their
them in those
families, their
camps.
businesses. Yeah,
Huh?
they got put in concentration camps. Amanda
What was
just
that,
commented
Amanda?
that they were put in the camps.
Yep.
Yeah, I read a book in school about it. Yeah, everyone that was Japanese here in the United States, and they were making me like they had to eat rice every day. That's all they ate. Like legit. I mean, what made that any better than supposedly what happened to the Jewish people? I mean, I guess because I didn't kill them, but you're locking these people up. I mean, how's that even right?
The only difference, Amanda, was that near the end of the war, the Allies bombed the concentration camps on purpose. They bombed the railroads so they couldn't get supplies to the concentration camps anymore. And many people died from typhus.
That's
The
sad.
Which they could.
typhus is a disease that could, when people die and they have typhus, it could spread to other people. So the Germans buried the people in the concentration camps when they died. So when you see videos of all those dead bodies they're bulldozing, they dug those bodies up to make those videos. Those were propaganda films.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Then
not to.
the census in Europe to how many Jews lived in Europe, with the exclusion of the Ukraine, because the Ukraine is very large and has a big Jewish population at that time. Hitler would have basically had to kill every single Jew in Western Europe to kill 6 million Jews. It's like an impossible number, and they've used that number multiple times throughout history. So,
And
I mean,
just to
to tie this whole... Go ahead.
I was just saying, just to add to what you said too about typhus. Typhus was spread by lice, and what they did to get rid of the lice, they would actually take off the, the Jews' clothing. They put them into a chamber, and they'd use Zyklon B to kill the lice. And that's why you can't, Zyklon B leaves a blue residue, and you cannot find Zyklon B in the supposed shower chambers because of the fact that A, the shower chambers had windows, if you look at the architecture, and the doors locked from the inside. So that's not a very good place to keep people who are getting gassed and, panicking. Not to mention, the clothing chamber that used Zyklon B had warning labels on the fucking doors in German, and I can read German, and it says, warning, gas chamber. So I don't think anybody who would go into that would be surprised, according to the stories, because there was warnings all over the fucking doors. The gas chambers were used to delouse the clothing because they didn't want typhus spreading. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Lloyd.
You're right.
That makes sense.
And what they did with these concentration camps, there was a it was like a
internment camp.
There was an order in which you went through the camp. So you walked in, you went to building 1, to building 2, building 3, building 4 in a certain order. So you'd go in, you would take off all your clothes because people were ridden with lice and disease. They would take your clothes, they would, delouse them. They would delouse you, head. That's why you see them, they're all bald. Because, lice gets in your hair. So they had to shave these people's heads and shit like that. And you went through basically there's a fucking word I want to use. Like a conveyor belt process, okay?
Production line.
I've seen, production line. That's exactly what I was looking for. They've actually gone back in Germany, and they keep these buildings up because the Holocaust is now a dollar industry. And I'm not just talking about the money and reparations Germany's given. All these different Holocaust museums get all kinds of money. I mean,
Christian Zionists.
Yeah, the offering plate. Yeah, the offering plate has been going around to Christian churches for decades now to help the poor Jews out, when Jews per capita have more money than the Christians by far.
Not to mention they treat the Palestinians just like, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, not to mention they treat the Palestinians like they were supposedly treated in World War II.
Yeah, and worse.
Terrible.
But they did.
Yeah, terrible. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Doc.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's terrible the way the Palestinian people are treated. Nobody who goes through such a ordeal as, people in Israel claim to be or went through would ever treat the same person that way. So that's what makes me start to through that sport. If you went the whole Holocaust thing, it does make you question it. If you did go through that terrible torture, why would you ever turn around and do it to another people, knowing what you're doing to them and how horrible it is? No, I don't care how you look at these people. You would never want to inflict that kind of pain on anybody else, right? That's just my view.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely nail on the head, Doc.
I watched a video by a German kid. He was probably in his 20s, and he snuck into one of these concentration camps, one of them that they don't use for tourism and to shekel grub and, emotionally get you to give up your money. And he went in, and he showed things. He's like, here's the complex, here's the so-called gas chamber. You can see that people would have scratched that door down to get out. They would have tried smashing it down. They would have done anything to get out of there like that at all, anywhere in the room. There was no blue staining from the Zyklon B like they said there was. They showed there was air vents and shit like that. So used like a gas chamber, like they said. He showed where the people who ran the concentration camps, I mean, these were like towns, they were ghettos. and they had people, like, there were German SS officers that lived there. So think about that. Let's say you're an SS general, you're a general in the German army, and you run one of these establishments, gas chamber with very deadly gas, family and your children, a few doors down from a gas chamber, that, you know, if the wind blew towards your house would kill you and your family. No, that's insane. You know, Germans wouldn't live in the ghetto if there's going to be a gas chamber and these people were going to be killed. And then this kid, this was a great video. It was in German, but he had subtitles. In this anywhere. I've been looking. I found this quite a few years ago. Probably like 15, 16 years ago. He showed, like, he had the interviews where the Jews are like, yeah, they had a pile of bodies and they just lit them on fire. Now, your body is like 90% water. Body isn't very good for burning. Okay, water doesn't burn that well, if you didn't already know that.
Not to
So
mention,
when these,
oh, sorry, I was going to say
Go
just not to mention Auschwitz was in swampland, so nothing really burns in a swampland.
no, and especially when you talk about piles of people, if any of you guys are familiar with, like, cremating someone, it takes a few hours to cremate one person, and is in a oven surrounded 360 degrees by very intense heat to turn their body to ashes. Okay, it's impossible. A pile of 30, 40, 50 bodies, douse them with gasoline. And these stories, I'm not making this up, these are so-called survivors. Bulldozed bodies into piles, poured gas on them. I'll challenge you to get a pile of wood, and we all know wood is flammable and burns better than water and human bodies. Take a big pile of wood, lean, and light it on fire. Yeah, there's going to be a big flame, and some of the wood on the outside of the pile is going to burn. The whole pile's not going to burn. And when you pick off the few logs on the top that burned, in the middle of the pile are going to be fine. They're going to be untouched. They're not even going to be black. So that right there tells you, and this kid did this with a stack of books. He got a big stack of books, doused them with gasoline, paper being flammable, and lit them on fire. A few books on top burned, but the books on the bottom didn't burn. So it's impossible. Anyone who's familiar with cremation knows you can't stack a pile of bodies up and burn them with gasoline. It's impossible. And, like, you hear these stories that these so-called survivors tell, they're ludicrous. They're absolutely insane. But they hit you with the whole emotional thing.
They get you.
Yeah, they show you those propaganda movies of abandoned by the gate starving. Guess what? My in high school teacher was an older woman. She was a child in World War II, and she still lived in Germany then. And I would stay after class a lot by the Nazis, by the way, just their whole. So I would ask her questions. I'm like, well, where did you live? And, like, tell me, how were the Nazis? Were they as bad as people said? And, you know, and she lived near Königsberg.
Right.
The city where she lived, they had a steel ball bearing plant in their town. And steel ball bearings are important for all kinds of machinery. Her town was a target by the British and the Americans. She told me the bombings that went on were merciless. They bombed German cities, and these weren't military targets. These were just people. They were civilians. They had nothing to do with the war. They weren't blowing up like, military bases or like munitions factories or anything like that. Bombing cities where people lived. And, Dresden was firebombed. Hamburg was firebombed. I mean, they destroyed these cities in Germany. And talk about the Holocaust, the actual word means actual offering.
Burnt
So why
offering,
would
yeah.
Jews, yeah, if your family was burned to death by, the Nazis, why would they call it a Holocaust? It was a ritual. What was happening? The Ashkenazi Jews were trying to get rid of the Sephardic Jews.
I mean,
But they don't tell you that part.
if you look at the transfer agreement, that's one thing that they don't tell you about in World War II. Hitler was trying to get the Jews to Palestine. He wanted them out. So if anybody, a couple of things I want to bring up too, like if you guys ever get the chance, look up the transfer agreement. Another thing to look up, this Jewish historian named David Cole actually produced a documentary that I linked in, put it in the chat. And he was a Jewish historian that exposed the lies of the Holocaust. And he got railed against so bad, getting called a self-hated Jew, he had to change his name because the harassment and death threats were so bad because he was putting a dent in the Holocaust narrative. And one more thing, Schindler's List, the thing that everybody has to watch, everybody's forced to see to tell you how evil the Germans were. Well, in Schindler's List, they did the interviews with the supposed survivors. Look up the deleted survivor stories and tell me that their stories don't clash with the narrative. These are things that were purposely left out, like how Auschwitz had a swimming pool, how Auschwitz had a food court, how the Germans would allow them to perform plays. And you'll see that all this was taken out because it didn't fit the narrative.
And something else, like, go ahead, Amanda.
Sorry. Well, people are so stuck on, okay, yeah, the Bible and you're supposed to support Israel, the Jews or whatnot. But that doesn't mean that they can't be evil and that they don't do wrong. In the Bible, they messed up through the whole Bible, the whole entire Bible. That's all they did. And then
Yes, ma'am.
the Jews, they crucified Jesus. They killed Jesus because he was going against their law. They couldn't get away from their law that they had to get rid of him. The Jews killed Jesus. So how do people think that they can't do any wrong?
Oh, well, Amanda, to add to your point, and this is something I like to bring up a lot, the Jews were kicked out of almost every Christian country. And one thing to add on to earlier, Martin Luther, he was excited that he created the Bible because he wanted to share it with the Jews. Well, not created, but translated, to show them, hey, guess what? You're God's chosen people, which he thought, because that was still the same myth given around then that it is now. I'm going to share with you the Bible. That way you can be saved. Well, guess what? Martin Luther found out what the Jews were really up to. They didn't realize that he could actually read ancient Hebrew, and he was able to translate their holy book, the Talmud, and he saw them for what they really were. And another big reason that the Jews hate Germany is Martin Luther published another book other than the Bible, and that was The Jews and Their Lies. So you had that. You had the Jews and their lies. On top of that, going back to what you said, Amanda, where the Jews crucified Christ, do you remember what the Pharisees said, Amanda? When Pontius Pilate said, my blood's not going to be upon this man, my hands are clean. What did the Jews say? What did the Jews say?
Oh, they wanted him crucified.
They said, his blood be upon us and our children. If that does not sound like a curse,
oh yeah,
a self-inflicted curse that the Pharisees said. They said, his blood be upon us and our children. There's no bigger curse than something you self-inflict, and that's pretty self-inflicted.
Amen. You're right.
And, it's great when a Jew converts to Christianity and, you know, realizes everything that happened, you know, what they did was wrong. And I'm saying it's, you know, it was part of God's plan that Jesus had to be sacrificed. But at the same time, that's the only way that the Jews are going to break that curse, is that they accept it. Because if not, they're gone. You know what happens. So do I.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's the only way they break that curse. Because unlike the rest of us, you know, the spiritual Israel, according to the Bible, we don't have that curse because we were never self-inflicted with that curse. And even if we did, we believe on Jesus, and that breaks the curse. But that is a
Correct. Well,
powerful...
Jesus came. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say Jesus came to, you know, that for everyone. So the whole chosen people thing is out the window, which I guess it didn't sit too well with them,
oh, yeah.
because he came for everyone, not just the Jews.
Oh,
And
of
so
course.
if you believe in him, then you are his chosen people.
But on top of that, a lot of people who preach the Christian Zionist movement, you know, they go into that, well, the Jews are God's people. No, it says in Galatians, I think it's Galatians, or it's either Galatians or Ephesians, that if you believe on Jesus Christ, you are the heirs according to Abraham's promise. And you are the chosen people. And on top of that,
Right.
in the book of John, it says, who is a liar? Those that deny Christ came in the flesh. Because those who proclaim the Father have the Father but deny the Son have neither the Son nor the Father. Now, who do we know that proclaims that they have the Father but not the Son? There's only one group of people I can think of that have that.
Well, this Jews.
Ta-da! Mystery solved.
Islam too. Islam too.
There's that. But once again, Islam was created by the Jesuits.
If you actually read the Torah, it says that the Jews are no longer God's chosen people because of their sins. And they are forced out of their land, and they have to roam in the wilderness, and they're not allowed to have. So their own religious doctrine says they're not supposed to have a homeland. They're being punished. They're no longer God's chosen people. They're not supposed to have a country until what they call the Messiah comes back. So like the Jews that we see today aren't the Jews from the Bible. And that's why when you read the Bible, it talks about the fake Jews and beware of the synagogue of Satan.
That's in the book of Revelation, yes. As far as the Jews...
about the... Go ahead.
I was saying, as far as the Jews being expelled, that's not necessarily the Torah. That's the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament. The Torah is the first 5 books of Moses.
You're the expert.
Well, as I said, I'm not going to let you down there. So,
Or really who they say they were. Why would they go against their own writings? Unless they're not really who they say they are.
well, if they're
before. Go ahead, you can finish.
I was just going to your point. Well, if they're anything, they're the heirs to the Pharisees, and the Pharisees came, you know, the Pharisees and their teachings came from Babylon. And they were doing that even back then, because there were 2 sections. There was 2 sects of Judaism back when Christ was around, and that was the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Sadducees were strict Torah believers, and they disappeared after Jesus Christ actually ascended. So most people believe that the Sadducees either died out or they converted to Christianity. The Pharisees, however, were part of the northern tribes that went to Babylon and came back with their new writing, the Talmud, and all the satanic doctrine that's in there.
I'm going to try to get us a video. I'm nervous about playing videos now, because as soon as you play a video, your video gets taken down and your channel gets shut down. Able to do that so quickly. I mean, like Jeff's show, his last show, was literally taken down in 10 minutes.
Well,
Like,
let's
I don't
be
know
on
how they were
this.
able to.
I was gonna say, let's be on the safe side and just summarize the video.
Yeah, I just want to show some of the writings, some of the passages in the Talmud, and we've talked about some of them before, how a Jew is to treat a non-Jew and how
Yep.
the laws go. How a Jew, it's perfectly legal for a Jew to steal off a non-Jew, or to murder a non-Jew. Because the non-Jews, Jews according to their religion, and anyone who's not a Jew is not a person. You're not a human being. And when you,
Yep.
you listen to all the stuff, the anti-Semitic, rhetoric they come up with, all the stuff that they say, that's all shit. The Talmud that they believe in. They're just telling you shit they believe in, and they're making themselves the victims, the non-Jews. And they do it. It's like it's like in 1984 with we're at war with Eurasia. We were always at war with Eurasia. And then the next day on the news, East Asia. We were always at war with East Asia. Like, what are you talking about? He works for the newspaper and the Ministry of Truth. And he's like, we've been at war with East Asia forever. We're not allies with them. We are now. So shut up and write it. You know what I mean? All
Right.
the
Well,
articles that say the contrary go down the memory hole. And that's the kind of things that they do. They just switch it up and memory hole.
well, to add on to your point about the Talmud was invented to circumvent the laws of Moses. I mean, that's the whole. It reads like, you know how the Supreme Court basically interprets the Constitution. Well, that's what the Talmud is. It interprets the laws of Moses and finds way to skirt around it, like thou shalt not commit murder. Well, our understanding is if you tie a man's hands together and he dies, well, you didn't really commit that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, or if you killed a non-Jew, if you killed a goy people, so technically you didn't actually commit a murder. Now, if
When
you
they're
were to
trying to
kill a Jew,
skirt around what's pretty fucking black and white. Thou shalt not commit murder. Doesn't say thou shalt not commit murder only if said person is a Jew. It says thou shalt not commit murder. But what they get around with is, oh, it's talking about killing a human, but non-Jews are not humans.
and again, that's that word magic that we talk about.
That's where it comes from.
They use it all the time. Like, for instance, choose is word magic for murdering your baby. Anyone says, the mother of my child, and when she first got pregnant, was talking about getting an abortion. Now, I'm not a super holy roller. I am a spiritual man, but by no means do I believe in abortion unless there is a super severe reason, like the child will die anyways, or the girl and the child will die, but that's very rare. It ain't like, oh, I'm pregnant. Well, I'm just going to go hop and get an abortion and get this taken care of, That's a human being. Thou shalt not kill. That, to me, I mean, maybe it's just me, but that includes babies. But they use that word magic. And you look at, the abortion doctors belong to a certain group of people about a lot from time to time.
Well, my kids, they were having a debate with some of their friends at school because you know how ridiculous teenagers are. Anyways, they brought up the point. Well, if you kill a pregnant lady, it's a double homicide. But you can have an abortion and it's okay.
Yeah, that's a great argument right there. You shoot a pregnant woman and she dies and explain she's pregnant. You kill a pregnant woman, you're getting charged not only for the murder of her, but you're going to get charged with the murder of the child. So if a child is murdered, it's classified as a child, it's classified as a human being, or 7.5 months pregnant. The baby is pretty much fully developed. You can go get abortion. And I believe we talked about this on one of the shows, and I just challenge anyone that is pro-choice. I'm sure they have it online. I watched it at school, in a Catholic school, for the pro-life rally kind of thing. An abortion being done. Because I'll tell you what, I was pro-choice. Because I was into, like, rights, you know, like, well, it's the woman's right. I was tricked into the whole her right. And I bought into that bullshit. But, you know, what about the rights of the baby? And, you know, when you see, after you see an abortion done, is your mind, well, then, you know, that's up to you. Changed my mind.
Like there was a
Horrible
video.
things.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
They had a
No, go
doctor.
ahead.
He used to do abortions, and it wasn't even a visual. He was I think talking to Congress or whatever. Anyhow, he was explaining detail exactly how they do the abortions because he had done hundreds of abortions, and then I guess something happened to him or whatever, and he changed his mind and he started to be against it, and he went step by step, and he brought the tools that they use, and he was showing them the tools as he was explaining what they do during the abortion. I couldn't even finish the video. I felt sick at my stomach. It was it was so terrible. I can't believe people do that.
Depending
Well,
how far along the baby is, if it's a partial birth abortion, with partial birth, and this is what, as you know, with the pro-life movement, we were trying to get that banned. You know, a partial birth abortion is when the baby's almost fully developed. They will way out. You know, the legs, the arms, the chest will be out of the mother, and the head will still be in her womb. Basically, take a big giant needle, stab it through the baby's neck into its head, and destroy its brain. And that big needle is hooked up to basically a shop vac, and they chop your baby up into little pieces
And
and
they
they
spit
suck
it
it up with
out.
a shop
Oh,
vac.
it's horrible. It's just so horrible.
yeah,
I don't understand.
it's fucking sadistic, and it was meant to
So
be that way.
disgusting.
It's always been that way, and it's part of a
And
huge. It's part of a huge satanic blood sacrifice, the blood of the innocent, that goes all the way back to the Book of Enoch. These people do this shit for a reason, and they know exactly what they're doing. It's ceremonial magic, death of the innocent, and you know now the Vatican has people in their supposedly study for life that are pro infanticide, which means abortion post birth to the age of 1, I believe.
they were saying up till 2.
Oh, that's
Think
even
that. Look,
worse.
listen to that word. Yeah, listen to that word magic. Post birth abortion.
Post
Yeah, I
birth.
saw
That
that
means your baby was
article.
born. Yeah, your baby was born. It's, you know, if it's 2 years old, it's already walking around. It's starting to say, you know, mama, dada, you know, cookie, little things like that. But you can take your 2-year-old toddler that walks basically at this point, and you could kill it. That's
Yeah,
not an abortion.
that's fucking infanticide.
It's murder.
I mean, it's like people are just.
Satanistic shit, man, right there. It's all satanistic. I'm sorry, Amanda.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I mean, it's like were you putting down a pet? I mean, really? Come on.
It's infanticide. It's fucking murder. I mean, you guys think the Nazis were bad. They weren't killing 2-year-old children just like that.
I hate that's even brought up. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous, and how people could sit there, even ever consider such a thing. They should all burn in hell and in pain. It's awful.
You know, as I said, you got, they're the same people who tell you how bad the Nazis were, but yet condone infanticide.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking hypocrites.
Oh,
All there's.
I'm sorry, BDP. I'm sorry to
Go ahead, Doc.
interrupt, guys. But it's getting late for me. I gotta be up in a few hours. Slaving away at the Illuminati job. So, so I just want to say good night. It's been a great show. I learned a lot, guys. I love hanging with all you guys. And
Well, tell them where they can find you, Doc.
You can hit me up on Twitter if you want at Robbie_Doc, yeah. I put a .com under it like I'm some kind of website, but it's Robbie_Doc Rob, and you can hit me up on Twitter.
Well, Doc, if you ever come up with a website, I'll buy up the name Jersey Claws for you.
Yeah, I like that. That's my new domain name.
Jersey Claws, spreading tidings of doom.
Well, good night and God bless everyone. Stay vigilant and put your armor on, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Peace, everybody.
And then there were 3.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think we got one more topic to go over there.
What is it?
White guilt settlements, Philando Castile, and Mike Brown families award millions.
Well, I didn't hear the last part you cut out. You said.
Sorry, I was saying white guilt settlements, Philando Castile, and Mike Brown's families award millions.
Oh.
Turning that over to Lloyd.
Has anyone followed these 2 particular things?
Well, I've seen a video of the one guy, and I really don't follow him because nowadays you can't tell what's real, and I'd rather not in all that drama. So you hear people talking about it because they're angry and whatnot, and I just try to stay away from it because I don't want to get in that drama. But I did see.
By the way,
on Facebook. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I seen a video on Facebook. I think they had the footage of the wife and I don't know if it was a little girl or a boy in the back of the police car, and they took her to the police station instead of the hospital after they had killed him. I don't know. It was like this footage because the case was over, so now you can't get tried again because over the same thing once you've already
double jeopardy.
Right, and so they've released all this extra footage of the wife in the cop car. The child was in the back of the cop car with her, and when they were like interrogating her or whatnot, and it's just that. I mean, you don't know the whole story because I don't even really know the whole story except for. They shot him in the car because they said he was reaching for a gun, but he had a license and whatever was going on. But when you watch that, I mean, it's really sad. I mean, it was really sad. I'm like, if true about this guy, that's really screwed up because I mean, my father is a cop, so a lot of my family members are police officers.
Right, so, but you gotta remember what a story.
But not every police officer is scandalous. I mean, there's always bad people everywhere you go. I mean, always.
But you got to remember too. Oh, sorry. I was just saying.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, when a story hits that level of involvement, you know, you got to wonder who's being played.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
Azimuth, can you share my screen? Just click my little icon right here, since we're going into this topic. Now, do you guys know who this guy on the right is?
Hold on one
Can you
second.
guys see that?
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
Do you know who this guy
Nope, I
is?
do not.
Do
Other than
you?
well, they're Masons.
Do you know who that is, Lloyd? What if I were to
Hold on one
tell
second.
you? Hmm?
Screen share?
You can see that, right?
Yeah.
That's Trayvon Martin's dad.
Oh no shit.
He is a Mason.
Well,
Now,
don't they
guess
sacrifice people for money?
yes, they do.
Here we go.
So after that whole thing, and remember, race relationships were unsteady but still decent until this incident happened.
Yes.
And look who's behind it. We
Yeah, I
got
see that.
our
Wow.
Mason. So once again, the Trayvon Martin story, all the fabrications behind it, absolute bullshit. Just because, right there,
Wow.
the Gnostic
Yeah,
Jesus,
I never seen
everything,
this
right there.
Well, I mean, they want money. You got to sacrifice someone. I mean, that's what you hear. So, wow.
Well, Liquid,
Yeah, they
you know,
don't.
we'll just start with.
I was just gonna say they don't tell you that part of the story, do they?
No, they leave it out. How convenient.
Well, like with Trayvon Martin, they made it seem like a white guy followed him around and
Yep.
shot him just because he had a hoodie on and he was a black guy. And they showed a picture of Trayvon Martin when he was a child. So it made it look like some killed this young black kid. That's not the truth. Trayvon Martin was like, you know, a teenager. He was a man. And the person they said that killed him, George Zimmerman, he was a Hispanic guy.
Yeah,
And, you
he
know, that
wasn't
didn't
white.
come out till later. Also, he was following around Trayvon Martin, part of the community watch, attacked him, and was beating his head literally into the ground. Got shot. We'll start with Mike Brown because that one happened first. The whole Black Lives Matter movement started out of Ferguson in St. Louis. So we get the whole hands up, don't shoot. Allegedly, a white racist cop killed Mike Brown, who they portrayed in the media as just a, you know, he wouldn't hurt anybody.
No, didn't he have a background though?
Yeah, they all do when it comes out.
Yeah. I tend to try to not follow these stories as much because I get a lot of grief because I don't agree with the whole Black Lives Matter nonsense. And so people think that I'm full of shit because I'm mixed. My mom's white, my father's black, and I don't jump on board with everything that Black Lives Matters. To me, it's just stupid, and they're idiots for
Well,
believing that nonsense. But
it's classic Hegelian dialectic, you know? Pit black versus white, pit gay versus straight, you know? Keep all these in-groups fighting while we fuck them from behind.
so I get a lot of, oh, you want to be white, and I'm like, that's not even the fucking. What the fuck do you mean? No, I don't. It has nothing to do with it.
How about you just be your own person and move on, right?
Thank you. Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Here's another thing. There is no black and there is no white. We are ethnicities. Now, ethnicities are peoples from certain groups. Because if you look at Brazil and you say, I don't like Brazilians, well, guess what? That wouldn't make you a racist. You're you're ethnically associated from Brazil because Brazilians aren't a race. Brazilians, they make up, there's Oriental Brazilians, there's white Brazilians, there's black Brazilians.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
We're not
That's like saying, people say, I don't like Americans.
Oh,
exactly.
no. Exactly. That's an American is an ethnicity, all of its own. And you got to remember, nobody is 100% black, quote unquote. Nobody's 100% white. We are all made up of the same genetic material, displaced, and, basically the only thing that's going around, and you know this because you work in the medical field, genetics plays a key factor. We have all sorts of recessive genes. My kid, could come out with blue eyes, and there's nobody with blue eyes in my family, But genetics plays a huge part in it, and we all have the same genetic code. We are all human. And
all my patients bleed red.
Exactly.
They all bleed red.
Perfect example. And you don't know what you don't know what the generations of your children's children are going to look like either,
Yeah, you're right.
And you can just look, take a picture of like and I hate the term African American. That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But if you take a person who is of African American descent and pull up a picture of somebody from Nigeria or somebody from Uganda and all these other African countries, they look nothing similar at all.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right. But here in America, people are so dumb. In the black community, my God, they don't have, like, the people they look up to is the biggest joke. And it's so hard to talk to people and try to wake them up because they think, oh, you want to be white, or you don't want to be black, or you think you're too good because you have lighter skin. Give me a break. No, it's not about that. You're being fooled. You're playing into the game they are playing, and they're duping you.
Exactly. And on top of that, the leaders they select are part of the satanic cabal. They flash their stupid hand signs. They were all part of some sort of fraternal order. You look at anybody from Jesse Jackson, sad to say this, Martin Luther King was also part of a fraternal order.
They all were.
These people are put in place. They are the controlled opposition. These people have no care. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about anybody but their pocketbooks. And they feed. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, my kids, their father, he's black. So they're darker complected than me, except for my youngest daughter. She's my color. She's the only one that got my color. The other three, my oldest three, they're more brown skinned than I am. But I raised them different, and I teach them, like, the stuff we talk about on the show. We talk about that. I tell my kids about things like that. So when they go talk to their friends or people at school and they try to tell them different things, they get it hard too because they don't support Black Lives Matter, and everyone thinks, oh, you don't want to be white, oh, you're too good, and they're like, no.
Yeah, what does that have anything to do with being an individual?
That's the first thing anyone says. It's so fucking stupid. I hate hearing it. I can't stand it. And then, of course, my father, their grandfather, he was a police officer, and so was one of their uncles, and we have a lot of people from the Marines in our family, so they don't jump on this, oh, all cops are evil, and oh, that guy was innocent, and they try to look for the whole story, and so they catch grief for that too because, oh, you want to be white, oh, you're too good.
Here's my question: which white are the evil ones? Are they the German whites? Are they the Arabic whites? Because got news for you: a lot of people in Arab countries happen to be white. Yeah. Were they the Armenian whites? Were they the European whites? Which whites are we talking about?
So
Are they the Nordic whites? Are they the Canadian whites? Exactly. India has white people too. As I said, in genetics, there are definitely, archetypes. And, I've read about the archetypes in genetics. You have the Oriental, you have and this is going to sound completely horrible, but the actual word is negroid, but that's a scientific term. You have you also have the Caucasoid. That's a funny word too.
That
But
sounds
you
worse.
look at doesn't
I'm
it?
sorry. Yeah, it sounds terrible.
But you have these genetic archetypes, but we all have those genetic archetypes in each one of us. Even the whitest person has those genetic archetypes because we all come from the same genetic code. It's just which features are more prominent in us. And no matter what anybody says, we all have every one of those in our DNA. So I don't care how black you are. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just off topic a little bit, but y'all know how they have the commercials for that Ancestry.com bullshit? Like, swab your mouth and send us your DNA and pay us money? Like, what the fuck? I'm not doing that. I really don't care. I really don't care. I don't care how much percentage of what is in me. I really don't, because it doesn't make me a difference. It's not going to change anything that's going on in my life. And then I'm going to pay you to send you my DNA. And what the fuck are you doing with it after that? Oh,
that's the thing that scares me. That's what scares me. I don't want my shit on file. You kidding? I don't want my DNA on file. What happens if I light a cigarette, throw it in a murder scene years later?
Okay, you did it. Yeah, it's complete setup. No, I'm good.
Exactly. I was about to say, I smoked a cigarette in that spot 20 years before the murder. What the hell? But no, you are absolutely right. But what I'm saying, especially as a Christian, we know we all come from the same, DNA. We come from the same two created beings. And even if we didn't, you still go to Noah and their bloodline, it's the same thing. In fact, with Noah having his 3 sons, one of them was named Ham, and Ham had the Cushites and the people that went to South Africa.
Yeah, you're right.
So we're all descendants of Noah in a way. So you got to realize, yeah, each of us have that genetic code. So, and that's the thing. I'd love everybody to take a DNA test to find out what they've been told to all their lives was full of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are no differences, we just have a different complexion. Now, the difference in attitude, I'm sure you've heard, well, this is a black thing or this is a white thing. No, that's culture. Culture's made up.
Stupid. Exactly.
Culture is made up. I don't discriminate based on skin color. I discriminate on the grounds of ideas. You know what I mean?
Oh,
if you're an idiot, 100%. I don't care what color you are. You're an idiot. And if you're a Zionist, I got news for you. Zionists come in many shapes and colors too.
Yep, they do.
It's just insane because you're screaming at people, You're screaming at the top of your lungs at a brick wall to these people who don't get it. At the same day.
They don't want to wake up. They like living in this ignorant bliss.
We all
tell them anything because it might shatter their everyday norm or what they've been taught their whole life.
It would shatter their illusions. And that's why I believe Christianity, is the one thing, because all true believers get together because we know that God created us all.
Okay.
That's why That's why it says red and yellow, black and white. We are, You remember how that song goes, right, Amanda?
You go pee peace. Hold on 1 second, guys.
No worries. You remember how that song goes, right, Amanda?
Nice. What song was it?
It was something that goes red and yellow, black and white. We are all precious in His sight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's from Bible school. You got to remember,
Yeah.
And I believe, my personal belief, from my own studies, is I believe that actual physical change took place at the Tower of Babel, where God came down and confused the languages.
Because they were
Because
trying to
they were
build
trying
that
to
power and they were doing stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. So he was like, nope, not today.
exactly, and they believe that Nimrod, who was the leader of that city, and that's where all the ancient deities come from, because everything was based on the myth of Nimrod, Ishtar, and Tammuz. So, with all the languages being diversified at that point in time, Nimrod became all these creatures, all these deities throughout different religions, like Zeus, Hera, Hercules, or, for instance, Isis, Horus, Set in the Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, they just changed the names, but it's
Exactly. But what better way to not only confuse the languages, but get people to not trust each other than by changing what everybody looked like, too?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I
that
forgot our
goes
original
all.
topic.
Say what?
I forgot the original topic.
Talking
What were
about
we
white
talking
guilt.
about?
Talking about white
Oh,
guilt,
that's
but kind
right.
of.
That's right. Well, okay.
We're
And this is
we're
another
still on
thing.
topic.
So, you know how you were saying that Germany pays reparations or whatnot to the Jewish?
Yep. Yeah, you still with me, Amanda? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We lost Amanda. Amanda, the link's still active if you want to try to get back in. You sounded like you had a good point. We were on the topic of reparations, and let me give you the link, Amanda. Try again. Technical difficulties. All by myself now. It's the Cube Show, starring me. I'm Cube. No, just kidding. But anyway, Lloyd's still out with the baby.
Okay, I'm here. I'm back.
Oh, there we go. And here's Amanda. Amanda, what were you saying before?
About how y'all were saying that the Germans still paid the Jews money because of the Holocaust or whatnot. Okay, so this is my thing, and I'm not on this slavery whatnot, but I mean,
Right.
if they're having to pay the Jews money, how come the African Americans aren't getting money for slavery? How come other cultures that were slaves aren't getting money for that? How come the people that got killed by different countries and I can't think of the name right now. There was so many more people that died than in the Holocaust. How come they're not being paid? I mean, I don't get it. How come it's just them?
Beats the hell out
I
of
mean,
me.
should we pay the Japanese
One
because we locked them up in concentration camps too?
Oh yeah.
with slavery, most of the slaves of the black people went to South America, to Brazil. The majority of them did.
That's why they're
Percent,
dark complected too. That makes sense.
yeah. That's why Brazilians are darker and they have that style of hair. The hair in
Right.
North America, in the United States, maybe, and I'll even give like a liberal estimate, 3% of white people had slaves. That's 3%. So then you're going to ask yourself, well, who were the other 97% of people that had slaves? 3% were other black people, but the majority of slave owners were Jewish. So if anyone was going to be paying black people reparations, it would be Jews. And they're not going to
Well, no,
pay.
but don't we pay them? We pay them too, don't we?
They don't
Yeah.
teach that one in high school.
Oh my God, no, they don't.
So like you said, you're mixed race. Do you differently from do you get treated differently from white people, and do you get treated differently from black people?
Hmm, really, not some. Well, from the black people, it's worse. because I'm being fake. I get that all the time because I don't act the way that most of them act, and I'm not bringing myself to that level. I'm sorry, I will not do it. I refuse to do it.
Fuck
I'm
those
not
assholes.
I'm not act like that. But
Fuck.
no,
Fuck
it's
them.
very rarely that I get treated like differently by any white people at all. I really don't. I don't. And maybe a handful of times I can count that during my life I've been treated bad. It doesn't even bother me. So all this race stuff, it just kills me. I think it's just stupidity.
I'm just
Like,
amazed
I
at
don't
how.
think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna comment. I mean, everything on the news is racist this and race that and all this stuff. You know, no, no one talked about that. There was no,
No,
you know, this just the anger and hate going on that we see today was nowhere to be found just a few years ago. So you
that's
can
right.
see how they take these, like the Filippo Castile, and you can take the Mike Brown shooting. Like I was saying earlier, the whole hands up, don't shoot was a lie. That said it was a lie were all black people. Did Dorian Yates, or not Dorian Yates, he's a bodybuilder. Dorian something or another, Mike Brown's friend, he was proven to be a liar in court. So, I mean, the whole hands up, don't shoot thing was a total lie. The whole Black Lives Matter movement, the way it
It's
was
founded on a
started,
lie.
was a, and when that whole thing in Ferguson was going on, I was watching live streams of different people, and I watched this with my own eyes. When they were burning buildings down, there were groups of younger black people standing in front of these doorways to all these different stores, not burning them down, people from looting. And the one guy's like, watch this, watch this. All these people that you see rioting and acting up and throwing rocks at the cops and lighting buildings on fire, they were all like, they all drove their cars to Ferguson, did all this shit. And he's like, watch around 12 o'clock, they all hop in their cars and leave. People, because
Well,
it's like a strip with a bunch of stores and stuff, and there's parking lots, the building and the highway, and then you could see all these people leaving. And then once all these people were out of the way around midnight, then the cops moved in and started going after people. But the people that lived in the neighborhood were stopping the
because
looting.
these people
So
came
it's,
into their neighborhoods and tore it up. I mean, that's fucking bullshit.
You're
yeah, and this
destroying
is
your
where the
own
whole
neighborhood. Yeah.
destroying their
Um,
whole neighborhood. They were defending
Yeah,
their
but they
neighborhoods, you
had
know?
people come in from outside to do this for the news, for propaganda, to make everyone that doesn't have a brain to think for themselves just listen to that narrative. And the people stopping them were people that live there. That's
yep.
ridiculous because they were tearing up their neighborhood.
Well,
Like,
not to
I
mention
would
that
defend
those.
my neighborhood if someone came to my
Right.
neighborhood and started trying to tear something up. I would be against it too. That's just ridiculous.
Not to mention, most of those people were bussed in from other neighborhoods and other cities. So they had nothing to do there.
Yeah,
That
so they
wasn't
don't
their
care.
city.
They don't care
Exactly. They
about it.
don't
They'll
care.
tear it
They'll
up. They
tear it
don't
up.
care.
Bunch of Soros page dudes.
Or like that, and then like with the Filippo Castile, pushing the whole, white cops kill black people, wasn't killed by a white cop. And, today I watched the body cam footage. He pulls him over. The cop pulls the girl over. It was his girlfriend, and she had her 4-year-old daughter in the back. Castile was just a
Diamond.
boyfriend, and that wasn't her kid. That wasn't had that kid with someone else. So they get pulled over, and you can see she had one tail light. The one on the right was working, the one on the left didn't work, the one in the middle was out. So she had two parking lights out. The cop says, you have brake lights out, you have license, registration, all that stuff. And then there was a armed robbery, and Filippo Castile was like the suspect. And that wasn't brought up at the time, but the cops knew this. So he asked for the license registration. You know, a couple seconds into the cop talking, Filippo Castile says, well, listen, I just want you to know I have a gun in the car. Says, okay, don't reach for it. Don't take it out. And then you can't really hear what's going on. And he's like, don't reach for it. And then the cop actually reaches in the car and tries to stop him for. Now, whether he's reaching for his wallet or whatever they're trying to say he was reaching for, you had just told the cops you have a gun in the car. They don't know if it's legal or not. The legality of the gun doesn't matter at this point. All they know is that you have a gun in the car. Reach for it. And you could see the guy in the car reaching for something. Now, if you were in that car and you were pulled over and you just told the cops you have a gun, I wouldn't fucking blink.
I wouldn't move. I would have my hands
Exactly.
on the steering wheel.
I'd say, I'm not moving. You tell me what to do.
Oh, I was about to say, I've been pulled over and I've been de-armed a couple of times myself, because here in Florida you're allowed to carry.
Take me out of my car. You can go and
Well,
get it out yourself. I mean,
the guy, they ask you if you have a gun, you got to answer yes or no. Unfortunately, there's a Florida state statute, so it's like, yeah, I do. So he's like, get out of the car. And that was fun, because not only did he take off my gun, but that he saw that I had like extra magazines. It's like, Jesus, are there any other weapons you're carrying? I'm like, not today. But yeah, that's always fun getting disarmed. But everything was cool. I didn't get killed. Took video footage just to make sure my rights weren't being violated. But at the same time, wait, did you say her name was Diamond?
That's like a stripper name. That's what it's.
Yeah, so gonna say, tell me that's not a stripper name. This is my name's Diamond. This is my kid, Jazaveron. Last name Jones.
Her daughter's name was Cinnamon. I'm just making that up. That's just another stripper name.
I was just gonna say, grooming them young, huh? Wow. Oh damn! It's 1 a.m.
You guys got
yeah, my kid's rolling around on my bed laughing.
You better put him to sleep. I'd say it's a good time to wrap up then.
Well, he's supposed to be asleep.
Yeah, he said there's no sleep tonight. He's gonna be up with you.
Nah, I was about to say. I guess that's a good thing to call it a night on.
I'll just wrap up the topic. What happened here? Both these shootings were used to not only cause hate between people, which, we talked about currently wasn't there until these, police stories started coming up. But now we see a big division with police officers. And, we had that shooting in Dallas where that Black Lives Matter, I don't even know I don't know if they have a membership, but he was a follower of Black Lives Matter, went in Dallas and shot all them cops.
And they blew him up with a robot. You remember that?
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
That's another topic that we'll have to get into at another night, though, because that brings into the war, robot tech stuff.
But even though that the cops were on both cases with Mike Brown and the Filippo Castile, by a jury trial, they were found not guilty. So they were not in the wrongdoing. The cop that shot Filippo Castile, so now he has no way to provide for his family. And the city in Minnesota where he was just awarded Filippo Castile's family $3 million.
That's
it shows that the guy, he was justified. The guy was reaching for something. And something else, I looked at Turks talk about this shooting. Totally out of fucking their minds. Filippo Castile got arrested for driving with no license I bet you at least 15 to 20 times, driving with no insurance. So they keep saying in the narrative, hey, got pulled over by the cops so many times, and the Young Turks say just for being black in the wrong neighborhood. Description of an armed robbery suspect, and he admitted to having a gun. You can watch the video for yourself where he says, the cop says, okay, don't take it out, don't reach for it. And then you can see him reaching for shit. Like he just said, don't reach for it. Why would you even pull? He didn't have to pull out his wallet. The cop didn't ask him for his ID. He wasn't driving. He was the passenger.
Right.
And same thing with the Mike Brown story. That cop was found, innocent. He didn't murder him. In trial, it was proven that Mike Brown attacked him and tried taking his gun. Parents were just awarded like $1.5 million.
Mm.
The cops kill someone and they're found innocent. Are these victims are their families going to be awarded millions of dollars?
It makes you wonder if all this was set up for their plan. Like they find people and we'll pay you this. Like someone in the comments, I think it was my TV, was saying that she was way too calm filming that. And I remember when I first saw the video, I didn't even know if it was real. I was like, is this even really going on? Because she was filming it like just sitting there chilling. Like I would be so crazy. There's no way I could have maintained the way she maintained to feel the whole incident.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
It was very weird to me.
I'd be freaking the fuck out, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, I
But
would
they
too.
just
So
the
I don't
media
know.
picks these certain cases and they out it for one, and they just push the whole narrative where we didn't have that before. And
No, but I mean
divide and
statistically,
conquer.
more white people are killed by cops than black people, and that's a fact.
Way more white people are killed by cops than black people. A lot
Well,
more.
it's because it's a disproportionate number of white people versus black people, Unfortunately, black people are still the minority in this country.
Black people make up
Because
about 13% of the population.
that's not a big number.
They just want us fighting each other because it keeps everyone off of what they're doing.
Exactly. Not to mention, what about the people of mixed race? I'm sure I've got a couple of mixed race babies out there from my youth. But not to mention that, I'm just kidding. I don't know. There's a bunch of little cubes around the area speaking Spanish and Portuguese. None of my business. But anyway, as I was saying, what's that going to do to the mixed race people here, who don't fit in on either black or white because they make this stupid paradigm over a useless skin color,
Well, see, if you don't see, this is the thing. So I don't know, but this is my experience because I'm mixed. So if I don't fit in with the black folks, they automatically put me over with the white people. That's just automatically what happens because I'm not acting the way they act. And not all of them, but just the people like at my job. It's really bad at my job. I work with some ghetto, fabulous people. That's why I went to night shift. I couldn't stand it anymore.
Why
So if I
is
don't act like them,
yeah?
they they just automatically push me to the other side.
Why is ghetto fabulous a thing?
I don't know.
Why?
Why is that even cool? Y'all
Why
look
would you? Why would
retarded.
you
Y'all look
push a?
idiotic. Oh,
Why would you push a stereotype from the 1920s?
they love it.
Honestly,
They love it. It's they look ignorant. People are so ignorant when they act like that. I don't care what color you are, because all races do it, and
yeah, they
they look
do.
so
We have
dumb.
them too. They're called rednecks.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Or you like to have the cash me outside girl. I mean, look how she acts. Ugh.
Exactly.
And they glorify it and they
Stupidity is
show it.
glorified. I fucking hate it.
Well, the reason is
it's-
Amanda said it. If we're fighting each other, we're not fighting them, and that's the main thing with all this. And like I played the video of Black Hitler, right? And you saw how those people,
Mm-hmm.
you can't like the The one lady made a video saying that people that were slaves are still alive today. In the 1865, not
Oh,
1965.
they said they're still living? Wow.
Nobody that was a slave is alive today.
And that's
Impossible.
another thing when people get on that soapbox of the slavery. You weren't a slave. You were never a slave. You lived pretty good. So are you serious right now? I mean, come on.
And like you were saying, Amanda, before, like, what about all the other groups that, enslaved people and, killed people? If that was the case, everybody would owe money because
Everyone should
every
be getting
group,
checked. You're right.
yeah,
Everybody.
every group fought and subjugated every other group. It's happened like that for
Exactly.
thousands and thousands of years.
Since the
No one should
beginning.
be money from something that happened, years ago. And someone brought up in the chat, and I'm Irish. Irish people were sent here as slaves as well. It
During
was
the
called indentured servitude doesn't mean that it wasn't slavery.
It was during the potato famine.
Which
More
is
the
really the
potatoes
English just
now.
starved them. They just starved them out. It wasn't, oh, because of a lack of potatoes, people. That's just the winners write the history books kind of things.
Essentially.
All right, it is 1:20.
Yeah, I need to start get
Tomorrow.
my medicine ready for my patients. I need to do some work. I am at work, but thanks for having me, and I guess I will see y'all Wednesday.
Always
Get out of church.
always a pleasure, Amanda. We don't want to get
thanks
you in
for
trouble.
joining us, Amanda.
Do what?
I said we don't want to get you in trouble.
I'm the boss. I work nighttime. Stay away from everybody else.
Don't be mixing those scripts, though.
No, I'm gonna behave. I'm gonna be good.
All right. Just making sure the patients don't get LSD by accident.
Oh, right? No, they would act a fool. I'm good. I'm not gonna give them anything like that.
That would be hilarious. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, Amanda. Always a pleasure.
All right. Bye.
All right, thanks, Amanda.
All right.
And then there were two.
You want to do your closing arguments?
I suppose it's about that time. See, we have some new people in the chat. Thank you guys for joining us if this is your first time. Burning Down Babylon, I do this show Mondays and Wednesdays nights after the Jeff C. show. We do it at 9:30 on Burning Down Babylon's channel on Monday nights. We do it on my channel at Wednesday nights at 9:30. And, as I've said before, and I repeat over and over again, so if I repeat, I'm sorry. I'm just nuts like that. But this show is an open discussion. You're always welcome to join. The link's always in the description. And as I said, we love to hear from people just because you guys probably have a topic that we haven't heard of. And, it's fun to weigh in, and it's great to see new perspectives on stuff. But what this show really pushes is to unify the truth movement. Because, everybody's too busy looking at the flirth. Everybody's too busy looking at the Mandingo effect. The enemy is right at the doorstep, and we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves. So there's a lot of things that certain groups won't address. There's certain things that other groups comment on that don't exist, whether that's flat earth or not. Who the fuck cares? You have the satanic cabal right at your doorstep, ready to basically turn you into New Jersey. No offense to Doc C. But as I said, you guys come here, let us know what's going on in your section of the world. We'll try to make sense of it. And as always, according to the book of Ephesians, have nothing to do with the work of darkness, but rather expose them. And you can catch me on my channel, Black Cube Mystery, youtube.com. And as always, keep your dick in a vice.
All right, I'm talking in the chat. Babylon, you can find me, obviously, on my YouTube page because you're on it right now. I'm on Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much. I just use it. I will respond if you talk to me on there. At Lloyd White 462. I also go on Minds, MINDS, like your mind, Minds.com, which is another YouTube. But as far as I've seen, there's no censorship on there. I've seen nudity, so I mean, if they have that, I would imagine they won't take down your videos for nonsense, and I'm kind of using that just in case I have any issues with censorship. I've been censored before on my last channel, so I know, you know. But Lewis Carroll, what's up? My TV is back. I've seen you guys before. Amanda was our first to join our show. Black Sun, I believe this is your out our little show we do here. Welcome, glad to have you. Baby's crying. I gotta do some dad stuff, so good night, everybody. Our next show will be Wednesday night at 9:30 on Black Cube's channel. So come check that out and keep your dick in a vice. Is that what you say? I thought you were going to answer. All right, well, keep your dick in a vice.
I was about to say, my dick is already in a vice. That's why I got to go unclamp it after the show.
Open up that back end and we'll see you on the next show.
There you go.